Oh, right.
All right, we're gonna go ahead. We'll get started informally, everybody. But the first thing, if I could have everybody's attention, real quick. So the format is we're gonna have everybody at these three tables, and I'd like to have 2 elected officials at each one of the 3 tables. And I'm not gonna tell you which ones you need to pick, but. I think Mayor and Navi are already here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then three staff members at each one of these 3 tables. So again, I don't care which ones you pick, just as long as we're doing 3 staff members and 2 electeds at each table. So, but
John, you and I are big enough. We probably count as 3.
Yeah, there we go.
everyone can go ahead and get started and grab something to eat. So it's pretty informal tonight. But we do have to record this since it's a public meeting, and that means you have to speak into the microphones.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Wait, when are we speaking into the microphone?
I'll let you know in a minute.
Raleigh, now the openings. What do you got, baseball?
So it's good, right?
I'll tell you what, I said something this morning. There we go. Have you ever heard of it?
Man, I've been
That's a job in one for So I gave the dog a haircut, and then I was like, you know what?
spending too much time just standing in a surgery.
Magical. I used our dog's vacuum clippers.
Waste.
Come on, you know what a Philby is?
It's got the vacuum attached to the buzzer.
Sucks the hair out.
So it sucks the hair out.
Well, I just
Like Billy Mays or whatever. Billy Mays!
I wouldn't mind your job. I just
Probably.
think I would ever get qualified for your job.
Yeah, what do you know about nukes? Who do you know on base? You're right. Sorry. You got a great personality for it, but
Well, that's just like we violated their constitutional rights.
I didn't know that.
Did you? I'm sorry.
I just was talking like
We didn't violate
therapist about it. Just like,
Oh, yeah, we have to.
just feel like I'm
Are
wasting
these recording? Yeah, we have to.
what I'm good at.
They're on right now.
Never.
They look like they're on. Are these recording now?
This, I always feel like I'm.
Don't start recording. I'm not done
Mayor don't want to record because for the last 10 years, or not the last 10 years, specifically the last 3 or 4,
Watch my language.
being asked less
I
and
tried to
less
tell that to John when they said we're recording, but I think he heard.
decision making.
That's the fun,
Probably wouldn't have stopped him anyway.
right?
Yeah.
He's going for it.
And you spend so many years of being what I said, the geek, the guy in charge. And it could be gal in charge, but
The geek.
It does reduce the problem.
Well, hello.
I don't want to be the gig
No.
at this table tonight.
okay. The geek.
The guy or the gal in charge.
Yeah, I'll say no to that as well.
That's awesome. Good partner.
You're at a table, partner, man. But you know you have 2 fairly type A people that will be willing to always have an opinion and
I'm C.
So cheap.
Type C?
yeah.
I think. I mean, it depends
Isn't that why
on.
you told me you like to go to hell? About that?
That was a little type A with comment, wasn't it? Who are they playing tonight?
Arizona.
Should
be very good.
charge of the meals, all the meals.
You got 2 teams that are playing really, really well
I
right
think
now.
all 3 ships have a Venmo account. They just fired money to us.
Dean! Tried to call you today.
Here's where you go.
Tried to call me today.
I was curious. With our
Save some money.
8 years, 4 years of service, does that count towards, like, if we were to get another government job? Don't take long to figure out. Why are we exempt? Why'd you do that to us? Or is that a state thing?
Because you don't get the criteria to be expenses. official.
Okay. I see. I know, I was thinking, man, if I just got a government job for 12 years, I could have like 2 of the years that are like a really decent salary to get some. It's not for 20.
Yeah.
How far are you guys into year 20? Years 4?
Oh, yeah, I'd take a Chipotle anywhere.
But I have 5 or 6 in the Arizona retirement system, which is interesting. Because otherwise I
know you're still
And the
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You're done.
You're done.
34 years. But no more than that. 30. I started farming. I did Farmington for 13.
But the pension.
I think I did both for 12 or 11. Then, but I stayed here for 34.
But
That's awesome. It's a long time.
also
It is a long house as part of that.
I can use
I wasn't a lot of fire
what's
investigations.
in
Did that for a
buy
couple
out
of years.
those years of service.
I forgot to tell you.
When I was in Pleasant View, I looked at buying now, it would have been like, you know.
Oh, yeah, I told Sean, I was like, and he's like, what meeting is that? I was like, it's the budget kickoff. He's like, we just did budget. And I was like,
You
no,
buy out
every year.
when they retire.
What's the advantage of buying them? I maybe don't understand.
Increase your number of years go.
Yeah.
Wait, oh, so you buy them and then the years would go towards here?
Yeah,
Or Utah, URS or whatever?
Things,
That makes sense.
maybe accelerants were used, but because it's so, a lot of times it's just too destroyed to
Okay.
get it really.
Let me ask you a
And
question.
then tier 1 too, because I worked in youth corrections.
Oh, okay.
Before grad school,
What does that
so
mean?
you have better retirement benefits than people in tier 2.
Thank you so much for
Like
using
I
this.
could retire, is it 25 years? It's 30, but now tier 2 is 35, unless you reach retirement age. So,
Who's this? There's 31 over here.
Just 31, counting you down.
Just plug it away.
I found matches one time on fire.
See, I'm at
Yeah, something's a little spicy.
Can't figure out which one I
27 years in the Air Force and 13
Do you like
years.
spicy or not like spicy?
do because of the fire. Also because when you put out the fire. This one's not terrible.
And it's not a lot of
Everything and you need to do that to be safe.
You're taking me on.
Think about it, we're looking for accelerants and things like that. You know what I can use for an accelerant that would burn up a house?
You want to go with to Europe next year with Marcy?
I'll go wherever you want me to
For
go.
a year and a half to 2 years?
I'll go wherever you want me to go, dear Perry.
Oh, I do 0.
Crazy.
I don't like it.
That's
No, I'm
right.
That's
But I do
Trying to
know
turn my
now.
papers in July.
I'm gonna get
To leave next February, a year from this.
Take ammonium nitrate, sulfate, one of the others, and put fluid in it.
Military relations missions. So you're near base and you're working with military members. And so next February, Aviano, Italy, which is about an hour north of Venice, or Spangdahlem, Germany, which is near Trier, it's in the Mosel Valley, and Brussels, Belgium, and Chapek. They all open up next February 3.
If they're selling it, surely they're
That's our
selling
first
it.
choice.
Like it'll taste
I've
good with
been
something, and then I put it on stuff. I'm like, no, I can't taste anything else.
I had an assignment to Aviano that got
Spicy,
canceled
I just spice, but
because they sent me to Iraq instead. So my wife had Marcy had her Italian cooking classes all set up, and I got a call just a couple months before and said, "You're going a little farther east, and you're going by yourself."
Meetings and appointments.
I like Brussels on my email. This is super irritating.
I did in Brussels as well.
Brussels.
I like also like Brussels sprouts too.
You don't normally
I also like Brussels sprouts.
I don't care for them. It doesn't eat that one. I do bacon.
Okay, well, when we find out
Eric doesn't
about
like
it,
it. It's kind of a household item.
it'll say,
I want them.
I have so expanded.
yes, from now to
Um,
yeah. And and it's
I mean,
irrigating.
no salmon.
But then it doesn't make you look at it.
Well, it
I
does.
still
It's
don't like
just
salmon. But when it's blackened and with a mole,
the pretty
I can do
salmon.
it. Or a goat
Yeah, so
jump.
no, okay, I need to actually look at this right now. Or not.
I can do that.
Oh, I don't know how to turn it off.
We're doing eggplant. We've done eggplant twice this last week.
It's 5 seconds.
In one called the baba ganoush. So we had that. I mean, Marcy made falafels and kafka, which is the shaped lamb beef skewers.
That I love.
So
Talking about like access spacing on roads.
okay.
Same kind of stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, we went over
The
today.
legislative update was really good this year.
Missions building. So they're using one corner of a bay for the car stuff, and the rest of the space it's partitioned with little curtain things. And there's a sleeping center area for men, a sleeping center for the women in the garage. The food in the little supply shelf.
Some UDOT presentation.
The lights are super light, So they ordered a couple of drop-down lights that are LED that you can
Might
make
teach the success
less
of
bright,
UDOT.
I guess, or something.
Really kind of
It'll be interesting.
If you want to exemption from
See, you're ruining my day.
Just these curtain divider thing, not, panel, like a
just
cloth
mean
panel thing.
Cody,
Dividing
what
the
are you
space.
guys doing?
Because before in the other place it
told
was
this
big
year was
enough
the
that they
first
had
time
probably
I
5 different
get
rooms,
this much
sleeping
out of
areas.
it. Don't feel
And
pressure,
then a little
it's just your
gathering
obligation.
space. And people were loving that. People were bringing their dogs, leaving their stuff, because they're coming back tomorrow, so. Anyway, this is not gonna be. It's just not big enough, so mention it.
You're going 3 of them? Wow.
Are there any families that come?
He's gonna start
Carrying these around everywhere though now, Mike.
I'll just be lucky if Sarah and I are
Set the
still.
precedent now, that's slippery slope.
With children.
All right, now that everyone's got their food,
Nobody's
we'll go ahead and
offended
get
us.
started. This is great because this is hopefully going to feel like a really casual meeting. We want it to feel like everyone can just kind of be informal and talk and free with kind of your thoughts and comments as we think about strategic planning. But before we start, I wanted to recognize Josh for something real quick. Josh?
What?
If you could come up.
Oh,
So,
come on, Big Papa.
this just came in the mail actually today. Cheryl brought it into my office. And Josh hates this. I was going to do this at City Council meeting, but he said he... So at least this is a happy medium. Josh has been nominated and voted recognized by his peers in the Utah chapter of the American Public Works Association. I'm probably
So awesome.
recording. But he has been recognized as the American Public Works Association Employee or Public Works Director of the Year. Outstanding. Wow. I didn't even ask him why they nominated me, so maybe you.
Me and you have the same question. I'm not quite sure whether that.
No, I think. Thank you for being awesome, and actually they wanted us to get a picture, so maybe this is great. The request of APWA that we get a picture. Maybe the council mayor would like to come up to and do a group picture.
Glad I did my hair.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Can we post that, Marie? You go over there. How about you do
How do we turn on that light? Is it okay?
It's probably better without the light.
like John.
Here we go.
There we go, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You gotta hold it up. He's gotta hold the award up.
Yes.
Hold it up. You gotta hold your plaque up. You gotta hold it up. There you go. And smile. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Josh, congratulations. Well deserved.
Put it on a chain and wear it around like flame.
When I give massages.
No, you don't.
Get out of here. That's really cool.
Thanks, man. And thanks for not doing that city council.
No, we still have more at the council meeting.
Oh, good.
We'll let you off now.
Thank you.
All right, well, again, thanks everyone for coming. So, wanted to talk a little bit about why we're doing this. And it kind of goes back, well, first let me do some housekeeping things. So, this is a public meeting, so it has to be recorded. These little black devices that are on the centers of the table, those are recording. They are not broadcasting into this room, of course, but they are recording. So we're going to do some a little bit as well. But whenever anyone's talking for the purpose of getting the minutes taken, we're going to try to use this mic, and that'll hopefully keep it so people aren't talking over themselves and things like that. But at any rate, several months ago, I want to say it was last summer, Nate and Abby and Josh and I kind of took a drive around the city. This is kind of Nate's request interest to look at doing trees on 200 North. And as we were driving around, Josh was taking us to some different areas. We even went in parts of Farmington a little bit, and we're just kind of talking about what the vision of the council is and kind of what the vision of the city should be in the coming years. And it kind of became clear that maybe sometimes we don't talk enough about that and maybe don't always see things exactly the same way. We talk a lot about the famous Bird Lane roundabout and how, we heard some feedback from the community that, hey, they thought they were going to get something really beautiful there and with maybe some landscaping and this and that. And in our vision, staff's vision, a lot of people are, hey, this is perfect. This is engineered to the nines and it functions beautifully. And so, again, it was those kind of conversations that kind of led to let's do some strategic planning, talk about what the vision of the city should be, what are we doing right, what are things that we want to change. And so that kind of leads into what we're doing tonight. I don't know how far we're going to get because I don't want to spend 3 hours. This is probably going to be a multi-meeting thing we'll do over a period of months. But to start with tonight, wanted to take a few minutes and just look at what we've already done. And there have been some planning processes already in the last few years. And I don't know if even some of you remember that in 2020 there was a Kaysville strategic plan that we hired JUB engineers and the Langdon group to put together a strategic plan for us. And I think Mayor Tran, you were on the council at that time. This was 2020. Councilmember Adams was there and Blackham all there, I think. But I think like a lot of plans, sometimes those get done and then they get put on the shelf and kind of forget about them. So that we take a look at that plan. There was a vision statement, a mission statement, and some guiding principles that came out of that. But it's very, very broad. And so there's clearly, it's a nice framework to work with, but there's more work to be done to sort of outline now what are the goals and initiatives that we want to do. And the same is true with the budget mission and objectives. You see that every year when we do our budget meetings, we kind of have that mission statement, that vision statement of the budget, and that's been around forever and ever. I don't even know when that was created, but it goes back to probably over 10 years ago, Dean, maybe. So, but that's very informative. And then the Kaysville Strategic Plan, which was in 2022, of course. And all these documents kind of have their own guiding principles and for the most part, a vision statement. And they all overlap a lot. But again, very informative in terms of, all right, how do we take these now? And what do these look like in practice? What do we do with these in terms of setting goals and strategic initiatives? So that's really the purpose of tonight, is to review that and then start to talk about what are the key areas. So number 2 is, once we've looked at those documents, let's talk about how we want to prioritize some of those principles. And then from there, number 3, if we can get this far tonight, I'd love to start talking about what are some broad strategic goals that we can identify that would support some of these strategic vision statements and guiding principles. And so there are different ways we can do it. I think if you have ideas of, hey, I want to really see this happen in the city. If it falls under one of these, umbrellas, these guiding principles, then I think you can back into it that way. But also, if you want to take it from the standpoint of, well, let's look at these guiding principles and figure out, all right, what are the next steps we want to take here? Either way, the most important thing tonight is just to talk about what is the vision we have for the city and what does that start to look like. And then after tonight, I'd like to kind of meet with the staff and then start building out some of these strategic goals in terms of actual building out projects and budgets and timelines. And then after doing that, come back to the council again in another work session and say, okay, here's what we've come up with in terms of what this looks like in terms of timeline and budget and process, and what do you think, council? So that's kind of the overall process over the coming months. But again, tonight I'd love to just, if we could get through the first 3 of these, I think that'd be tremendously successful. So a lot of times we'll do a retreat somewhere. This is kind of a retreat on a budget, and so we're not going anywhere fun, but it is, honestly, it is kind of nice to kind of take a different step, and hopefully it feels a little more less informal or less formal, and not like you're in the council chambers on a Tuesday night in February, but maybe,
Nice puzzle.
yeah, we're doing something. I suppose. So anyway, again, strategic plan. Again, this goes back to February 2020 was when it was adopted. And by the way, everyone's got 3 handouts. You've got your Kaysville strategic plan, and literally that is all it is 1 page. It's a vision, or mission, a vision, and it's 5 guiding principles. And then you also have our famous mission statement and budget objectives that we see every budget cycle. And the last handout is the guiding principles from the 2022 general plan. So, mission statement just talks about what we are and why. What are we doing in the city? Anybody willing to read that mission statement? Sure. I'll give you that. Thanks, Tim.
Kaysville is a family-friendly, recreationally active, and economically balanced community that provides a welcoming, safe, and connected environment for current and future citizens. We respect the historic small-town charm, foster educational opportunities, and embrace relationships and progress for a high quality of life.
Perfect. And then let's just read the vision statement too. If you want to pass it, Josh, with you.
Kaysville is where people find the best of small town life and take pride in the strong infrastructure, safe environments, vibrant parks, recreational and educational opportunities, and the ability to afford and live the best life. We embrace fiscal responsibility, progress, and growth through informed leadership, proactive planning, and collaborative partnerships.
Thanks a lot. So, again, this strategic plan was put together by JUB. They started in March of 2019, and the plan was finally adopted in February of 2020. So, almost a year-long process where they did a lot of outreach. I believe there were some events they did the 4th of July where they reached out to community members. They did a lot of workshops. There was a community survey in the fall of 2019. I know they did some, maybe Mike and Mayor and John, you guys might remember they did a workshop with the council. At least they claim they did. And then with the planning commission, they did a workshop and just kind of gathered ideas of what stakeholders in the community thought of Kaysville, what it is that they valued, and what makes up Kaysville. And so this was just 5 years ago now. And I guess just wanted to visit that again. To me, it sounds like this is still defining Kaysville. But is there anything anyone sees in there that maybe says, maybe we're a little different, or anything you really tweak? And not that we're going to spend any time really wordsmithing tonight, but do these still seem to resonate with the city? Would you say anything anyone would add? And I'm not anticipating that there really is going to be much comment on that, because again, I think those do capture what Kaysville is. We could spend, I think I heard Chief, we could spend like all day long wordsmithing a vision statement and debating it. So I think this captures Kaysville still, and they did a good process. I think, you know, five years ago.
On those, when we did ours at Hill in 2017, those 2 items took 11 hours.
11 hours to do. So yeah, it's brutal. And so that's why I'm going to kind of keep moving here. So these are the 5 guiding principles that came out of that process in 2019, 2020. So build and maintain quality, long-lasting infrastructure connectivity, welcoming thoughtful opinions, experiences to build collaborative intelligence or collective intelligence. If you look at these guiding principles, and you look at the principles in the strategic, or the the principles in the general plan, there's a lot of overlap you see, and I think that's a good thing. But the goal here is to kind of look at these again. We'll come back to this one. Here's the budget, mission, and objectives, and everyone's seen this quite a few times. Anyone want to, maybe Dean, finance director? Can you read that?
Mission statement: enhance the present and future quality of community life in Kaysville through the delivery of effective, efficient, and equitable services. The objectives: operations, manage the use of city assets and resources for cost-effective and efficient delivery of services. Maintain the expected level of service. Employees, develop and maintain competent, qualified, dedicated, and well-trained employees who are respectful, understanding, courteous, and sensitive to those we serve. Capital investment and infrastructure. Improve and maintain capital investment and city infrastructure, providing the highest level of service delivery and staying ahead of the maintenance curve.
Thanks, Steve.
So beautiful, aren't they?
That's just gorgeous. You write those.
I wonder if he read them.
Well done. That was before artificial intelligence.
I think those summarize really well. I
like
mean, if you look at the budget, that is the budget. Operations, employees make up the large majority of the operating fund, the general fund, and operations, capital, and investment. So those are going to be really key in terms of guiding points or principles that we want to set goals around tonight. So we'll come back to these as well. And then so the last one is the. Sorry.
So Jason?
Yep.
Expected level of service. How do we identify what is the expected level of services under operations?
And that's why we're here tonight. That's a good question, and I think that's where tonight we're going to stay so high level on this. It's really going to be a lot about what are the important principles that we want to focus on. And I think as we get into like how do we define some of this stuff, that's where staff will kind of come back, sit down together and figure out, all right, what does this look like? Maybe to use a military analogy, tonight it's about having council kind of really take most of the lead on telling us, hey, which hills do you want us to take as a city? And then staff will go back and figure out, how do we put together a strategy that's, with smart goals that are, specific and measurable and all those things, time bound, and actually come up with the way to take those hills. So you tell us which hills to take, we'll come up with a strategy and a way to measure it, and then come back to you for input. Say, okay, here's what we have as far as specific goals. You give us your input on if we're kind of hitting the mark. But again, tonight's really going to be pretty high level. Okay. Does that kind of speak to?
Reading through those, there was that one, and then on the bottom one, it talked about the highest level of service. Well, the highest level of service is always the most expensive. And we can't, we'll get into that. I'm just, okay.
Right.
I'm just thinking through, sorry.
Perfect. And here, the the final guiding principles from the general plan. And again, there's these are pretty broad, and our goal now is, what I'd like to do tonight is, you've each got paper, and the color paper is the orange, yellow, and green. So I want to take just maybe 10 minutes or so, and as groups kind of talk about looking at all of these principles that we've talked about from the general plan, the strategic plan, the budget, vision, which ones of these principles really resonate, do you think, in terms of what are the priorities that we have as a city over the coming 5 years? And really think a lot about which one of these would lend themselves well to actionable goals. And you may be thinking of things that aren't listed on that page right now, which is fine. This isn't supposed to be an all-inclusive list of every principle that we might have, and so you can see it down the bottom right. There's some additional principles that we could talk about: service delivery, public safety, economic development, communications, or community aesthetics. Those are all things that might be really important, and I think a lot of these things line up well also with the vision statement and the mission statement that we read earlier. But is that clear? So take the next 10 minutes and just kind of break out as these three tables and talk about, come up with, if you could, I'd say at least 3 or 4, there's no limit, but at least 3 or 4 principles that you see as important to guiding the city in the next 5 years that we should focus on, that really resonate as priorities for the city. So does that make sense? Any questions?
So you want us to just take a couple of those and write them down as our priority?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, once everyone's filled out their list of 3 or 4 as groups, we're going to put them up here. We're going to see if there are commonalities. Like, oh, it looks like everyone's saying infrastructure is really important. Or everyone's saying, community aesthetics is really important. So we can kind of figure out what are the priorities that we're seeing. Any questions, Dean?
I don't want to upset the apple cart, but
Please do.
To Perry's comment about maintain the expected level of service, what does that really look like? I think as we go through every one of these principles, I think we all have different opinions on what these things look like. So maybe as part of that, we could discuss what these principles look like in our minds.
So our expectation for...
I think that's what
Okay, amongst the table, or, okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
So are you saying what our level of service should be for each area?
I just think what the expected.
What do we expect?
What do you envision?
Okay.
At least that's how I interpret it. Is like, when you look at that, what do you envision that level of service?
Yeah, when it says the expected level of service, what does that look like in snow plowing? Is that plow curb to curb? Do we plow just main streets? I think we kind of need to sense what that looks like.
Okay.
I think that could come later too.
Maybe we're ahead of the game a little bit.
I think a little bit, yeah. You're right on target in terms of where we're going. But right now, for this particular discussion, I think the conversation is more, hey, are we happy with our level of service? Or should we be talking more about service quality? And if service quality service delivery is something that's important to be talking about, put that on the list, on the orange sheet or the yellow or green sheet. And then later on, we'll go back and we'll start talking about that next question of like, what does that start to look like? Service is important. What does that mean? And we'll have those conversations, and especially with the staff, and then we'll come back to the council and have another workshop like this in a few months where we'll talk more about, I think, what you're saying. So let me just add too that you can it's already a given, if you don't mind, that these 3 budget priorities, operations, employees, and capital investment in infrastructure are so huge that we can't ignore that. That is the budget, essentially. So I think we'll just assume that these 3 are going to be in there because that's what we do. So focus more on the other 10, the strategic plan and the 5 from the general plan, or any others that you might be inclined to add that might not be on this list. that makes sense?
We have to come up with 3 that we.
Come up with at least 3 as a group
That are like our
that
group's
you
top.
feel like your group would say are the most important priorities.
Okay.
Should we first pick our 3 individual?
I think there's about half a dozen we just.
Okay, I would think
This is,
SB3
none of these have to do with these
would be a really good
documents,
place to
but
start.
Melinda shared
Yeah, what would you get rid of?
Make
some
decisions based
snippets
on
from
information and
Ogden's
facts and analysis. Right?
Um,
Not just our own political
and
plans.
I really loved a couple
Do you
of
think that's a
the
good one? Meaning
guidance
that
principles that they have.
if this is what we
Well,
need,
and there's so,
we do it.
Their 4 main
Because-
guiding
no,
principles
because we're
were
worried about
economic
being
development
B3 and
is
SB1.
one,
Or what
city
people will
image and
say.
appearance
We
as
do it because
2,
it's necessary.
community safety as 3,
SP3,
and recreation as 4.
That should drive every
I
single
think that's
decision we make.
I think
That we're doing it based upon.
city image and appearance is one that comes to mind, you know.
If we're making decisions
had
based upon
opportunities to
anything
talk with
else,
elected officials and
SP3?
even input and
like
feedback,
lots of
criticism
like
from the
lots of
community.
residents.
A lot of that focuses around like
Is that you have to
way
be
things
prepared
get
when you're
surveyed
doing
to
that, to be willing to make
to build things that function, but
facts say
the form
whatever it
is
the
not
facts say,
going, and form has always been like
10% increase in XYZ.
in the backseat because
If we're going to be going by this vision, then we need to
kind
be
of
prepared
a
that that's
tight
the decision
ship here, and if we're able
be willing to make. And
to
if
check
that
the box
requires
of form
tough stuff,
But there
at the
has
end,
been an evolution.
that
I agree.
we're able to do it, but it hasn't really been a guiding
based, no, you're
factor
You gotta-
specifically in my work. That roundabout's a perfect example. Like, hey,
What
we've
else?
got
Because
enough
honestly, that's the
to make
hardest thing.
sure that it's
We-
safe and functions
And
great for
Selena did it.
pedestrians and
We get a lot of
vehicles.
pushback on
And
stuff.
then
That's why we signed up.
like,
Yeah,
To
the other
make
one
decisions.
so city image and appearance was one that
GP1 stay true to our
I
values.
really
I think,
thought a lot
at least from
about.
me, my perspective, like Kaysville got.
Community safety talks
Kaysville
about
made its decision a long time ago of what it wanted to
To
be.
major services, fire
Which isn't gonna be
and police
station
specifically,
parks
but I think there's
Right.
a lot
So
of
if
other
that's what
things
we're
that
gonna
factor
be,
into it.
then let's own that.
With an
But with
older
that, you have to
visibility
understand that
There's a cost.
there comes
We're now
trade-offs. Like if
Yeah.
we want to be who we are, then let's.
I think that one goes hand in hand with SP4 too, though. Can we put them like together? Because I was like, well, which one do we choose?
Yeah, GP1 and
Which you want?
Yeah, I don't.
SP4.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Maybe that's.
Equal, right?
Yeah, maybe. Could be.
Whatever that means. That means
I
it. Okay.
Yes, you're right.
And SP4, which is
Good job, and I
respect for the
think
passion for
we've
vision.
seen
And you're right, we have made a
You know, if
decision,
there's something we don't
we
like,
bought into this
ask for
decision,
pushback or
not realizing maybe it would cost us in the end, but it's the lifestyle that most of us have
staff
chosen that we
comes
live
and gives us more
for.
analysis.
So we just have to be willing
And
to
I
say
think
yes.
with that,
This position I'm in now, what I use,
I don't think
what I'm
so.
finding out
Is I'm finding the demographics.
I would have to me that means,
At what they expect from the city. I find that the people
I guess
who are
relational opportunities would be like
20 to
making relations
35
with other
expect the
businesses
city
and I
to
think
do a
within
lot.
both of those,
that would
there's
come into
actionable.
the
People
city
who are,
and
say, 35
co-op with us.
Stay true to who we are.
They just
And that's a question for me, because the city
want
years
to know
ago,
that they're
now we've
services
expanded,
are
we're
gonna be
bringing
different.
in businesses.
And I, honestly, they go to
Entertain, so I find the younger families
what is it?
provide entertainment. The mid-career doesn't.
So it's GP1
The older
SP4.
generations, they just expect you to,
With
and I've always said,
you know,
they just want you to provide a power, sewer, water, police,
And you're right, we've decided long ago, pretty much. We are what we
The older
are.
ones I find are wrong.
City,
The older ones
Some
are
people
wrong.
just own it.
we don't have.
It's
Well,
okay.
that's what I'm saying, they
We don't
want,
have
they want,
farming.
they
But we
want
also have to pay
fire.
for it.
And so
That's one of
what's
the
the
things
right
they definitely.
And I
balance?
think when we're talking about what's the level of
But they
expected
could care
service, it's what we
less if
have. That's what we
Yeah.
expect,
I
but it
think you're
can't
creating
continue.
and
And that's what I'm
maximizing
Based
saying.
upon
I'm
what
based
we expect.
finding out
upon
that
staying true to our heritage.
the older
So that's what we
generations,
think we
No,
should all
no, I
like
think
understand.
one of them
don't feel
ties
like
into
it's
the
the
other.
city's
People are not
responsibility to
freaking out
provide so
about
much
stupid
energy
things
right
like
in a
that.
certain way, like if
Because
you
everything's
say,
good.
it's important
So
for
they're
the city to
freaking out
provide
about, I'm not
entertainment.
stupid things, but you know, I mean, they're
And
freaking
what I'm
about
finding
other
is
things
that
that aren't even problems
you know,
because
They
it's so
don't
good.
like paying for all those extras
I mean,
that they
Dean, you've been here
because.
for a lot of years.
So that's kind of what
People are interested and
I'm learning
engaged.
in this position.
You've seen,
And
I think
concerned.
you've seen
Especially a lot
As they
lately.
should.
how infrastructure in the city.
Feel and
As we all do, right?
As we all do when we don't have
So,
much.
because it's sort of haphazard how it's.
I've always said,
So-
these are the six.
Throw one more. I would
To me,
throw
it's
one.
power, sewer, water, police, fire. That's what a city is supposed to provide people.
Because
Beyond that,
SP1 ties in a lot of
there's one
the
more,
general plan.
and that's the big one.
You know,
Is arguably
preserve
the
open
toughest.
space,
Long
trails,
lasting.
because that's all.
Infrastructure.
That's where your rec centers come in.
It's hard on the GP ones, because you don't want to pick
All
just
the
one.
events, your parades,
Like you're saying, it's
It's not exciting.
But
you know,
But if you're doing quality,
And so that's
long-lasting
another reason why
infrastructure,
it's easy to put a
by doing that, you're accomplishing a lot of the
Control.
G's. You're
Right.
improving mobility connectivity, you're enriching our city centers, you're providing diverse housing. You're looking ahead and you're doing things that are going to meet the demands of the future.
the downside of those things, the downside is that to build and maintain quality requires
It's not sexy.
a
It's not
commitment
air.
to spending.
And when I retired, I was working out
Stuff that's
of a
not-
building that was
Stuff that's
built.
gonna last.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I totally agree. If we have this, then we are doing all the other things.
And
If we
they're
use
still
data
there, and
and
they're
not
still using them
our own
because
little soapbox.
it costs us.
And I do feel kind of boring not choosing one of the GPs, but
At what point do we get to where we
It's kind of
should be putting aside something
That's
else?
true.
Because
Did you hear about the mayor of,
Josh and Brian were
I
saying,
don't know, some city, she couldn't spell
guys,
people.
we're really nervous.
Was it Philadelphia?
well, that explains a lot of what's going on there.
Maybe I should part of your.
Hey, everybody knows who I am.
We didn't lie.
I heard
I should clarify too, so every table should be taking their paper.
Sorry,
And,
my brain is.
What do we do?
You want us to have one per
putting
sheet.
three or four goals.
Okay,
You
you
could
ready?
put like SP or GP or whatever, or if it's something completely new.
So what did we,
Blew it up.
what did you guys, what did
Sorry,
everybody
I
pick
was
as their
trying to
three?
disrupt
Do you want one on each sheet, or do we do it?
If you could fit them all on one sheet, that would be awesome.
So we did it right?
Yeah, the model group.
And I had SP1,
Identity. I'm just a
B3.
really bad speller.
You know, I have.
So what he's saying is, what he said earlier, is ignore
But
B1.
it was,
Because
I
we're gonna
listened to
build
her.
those, we're gonna put those in the process. So starting with just the SP1, the GP5,
And people were roasting her. She said, everyone knows
I
my
had
name or
SP1,
something.
I think. It flows into B3, but
Okay.
it's really.
How do you feel about SP1 with
Is there anything else you
Giants.
want
They're like Giants
to? I
fans.
think we got the
Intense.
crux of it. What do you think, Paul? Do you?
No, I agree. I actually brought this up with my staff. We had a park struggle. I just want to have
the biggest thing about like what you
guys
said,
like, what is your
kind
thoughts?
of
What do
could
you
all
think
agree
is
is
the
the least sexy thing is the thing you don't get to see.
Even
There's
there's
interesting
But
with what my staff
connected,
we
sees.
sent out like flyer.
This has nothing to do with that, but
That shows
It's just
some
a
of the
rapid
high
house
issues that
entitled
are
still on both sides.
This is what water pressure.
Like, is there more on one side than the other?
I think it would soften later on. We have to increase a little bit of taxes.
Yeah, they
to build this
experience it
pipe.
under some of my
I mean, I think
guys
that's
around
one of the
the
things
parks
that
Using
on
my
my
recent
side.
example.
well,
Some of the residents
I
are
wanna see
the treating community, or just letting them know,
And I
like, this
didn't
is
realize that
Specifically over there.
this is why I got injured
why, and doing it in a way
fairly
that's like
significantly,
almost
and that more
marketing.
people I talk to,
You know, higher use.
they all have a story of somebody.
Everybody is like,
Oh, but the east side is
up in our east side, kind of replace that water line.
Complains about it.
The east side complains
Do
about
it.
it being plain.
Do you know what I mean?
They're just jerks.
How do you feel about that?
Fix our,
They're Christian.
I don't know, which one's better?
Well, SP1
Nineties
to
versus
spend money on things that
Okay,
are
well, yeah.
with
yes, rather than
They're supposed to be.
That I had some good going
multiple
there.
things. I'd rather spend more money on
I did too.
the frame and the motor.
Oh, maybe I used the wrong side.
I think you got it.
a lot of these
What's
things
that?
have
Who else?
a little bit of
Oh, maybe
space.
that's just sticky and maybe it's upside down. You want to
fix
rewrite it out?
existing I think a lot of this is probably about establishing principles or help make decisions that are
And I feel like it's
sometimes it's
captured.
hey, maybe one decision can hit
Typical for a city to be
divided, or sometimes it's like hey,
West Valley is
this
exactly that. West Valley and Salt
being worked on, or
Lake is
this
the worst.
because I hear it doesn't
comments all the
necessarily
time
have to do with this other thing.
Hey, are you guys
It
good
doesn't
about
have to
writing
be
that
adamant
one down?
you know
Be
what
either
side
or.
it is.
I agree with that.
Really?
And staff, I think the the thing that would help me a ton is like,
Okay.
when I
There's
plan
an
on infrastructure
Yeah. We're just one big.
in addition to like, hey, this has got to be
One of the things that I think
federal highway.
struggle with EC is
I also
this
need to be keeping in mind that like
it sounds simple,
got
but
to
I mean, having two high
have
schools
some
now,
sort of
Yeah.
aesthetic
Yeah.
or
Davis and Farmington.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even
trying to
interested.
balance these different things.
Yeah, that
That's
doesn't-
created some division
Whatever it
within our
is,
Yes.
everything's
recreation programs.
the big picture rather than
And we have charter
we're
schools.
only focused on this one
The
thing.
CRA will take it
I
from
don't know.
there.
I don't know what you were gonna say.
Never see anything that you can do.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't think.
Well,
this
you
is
said
a
that's
foundation. You and
Patrick was in there.
Is that right?
I think that what people, older people particularly want on the east side, so to speak, is they want the services, those
I know,
essential
good job.
services.
I grew up in
at
West
a
Valley
higher
and then
level.
bought a house on the east side of Kaysville. I was like, I made it to the east side. And then I got to Kaysville and I was like, wait, what?
They flipped it.
Yeah. And Lyle was like, this is the only place in Boston. Yeah, exactly. And I was like,
You're gonna have to change it, it's gonna have to be, because you got the east side.
Yes, yes.
oh, you're just
So you wanna become the central.
The central.
Central
I mean, maybe that's
council.
better, right? The
That's
council
true.
worried
Central's
about.
gonna
Because
want
the
to
east
know.
east out
all
there
really
is.
sticky.
It's really.
Are you talking just building? Business licensing.
Just build
I think our rates are
Why
pretty
why
low.
wouldn't you just study, let's just raise them?
That means
If you see that they're, if you see that they're low, let's just raise them. I don't need to
Instead of
study.
spending, yeah.
I have told people, these are race who we are.
we have two ambulances.
This is who we are. Okay, that's fine. You want to be this way, but it comes
Based on the cost of
with a price
services
tag.
to provide.
And maybe if you were on the west side of
Could you just pull data from other cities?
What should business fees cost?
That's how my neighbors are.
I know, I
We
hear
want nice
people,
roads. We want nice
and I
We want a rec center. Do we
you know,
have to do?
Yeah. I had
I
a
went so
guy
far as to
talking
get
to city
into
was
smaller, there was more
other
things
cities
that were
recently
more
done it.
roads, I'm like,
But
this costs
but that's
oriented
a
and not
data
so
driven
much
So let's
city,
do
right?
it.
And if the council wants to
I know,
say.
and I realize it is money
Because that's
our taxes go up too, just like everyone else's, but at the same
That's
time,
a
we
data
chose to
Hit up
live
by
there.
Santa Claus.
Or the council says, you know what, we're not okay with subsidizing, but we want to increase these over a period of time, so it's not just a huge blow all.
And that
It's
funds.
great for everybody to show up, and you don't understand why it
Yes.
takes city employees.
If you want to complain, let's complain about hunger this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of
Taking the
people
bulk
are
Yes.
smaller.
Great.
No, but we're all.
It's amazing what we do with that little.
I mean, they're
teeny
charging
of the property tax.
Business is
incredible.
charging way more
And people-
food for everything.
All right, let's take maybe like maybe 2 or 3 more minutes.
Just call us, John.
See what you
We
got.
just say, should we say
I
SB
think it's done, just
Okay,
don't
we're good.
Jason, here's ours.
Drives me nuts.
turn your stuff in, John. Come on.
We wanted to see what everybody else did.
I know, you're totally cheating.
Right off the bat, my top, other than the first three, SB 5, Justice 3,
You paid the three.
Fire inspections and how much.
really trying to
feel
fill
that that's what most of the
opportunities.
awards are given from.
You're talking about these because you have city center downtown and a
Yeah, SP 5, CP
I feel like the
3.
fact that the library still stands.
Okay, guys, come on, you guys are probably.
We were actually. It says we were right in Mississippi.
But you know, heck with that.
Yeah.
Conversing and start
Speaking of that, what do you guys think? John Adams based off this resume.
I feel bad. I focused enough on these. Here, the existing ones. But like I said, mine that I felt like resonated with
No, it's awesome.
the community input that was received as part of the initial strategic plan
That
and
connection, that
the input
connection,
that
that
I
community
get
feel.
from
I
residents.
agree. Yeah.
Is image and appearance,
We talk about it.
community safety, infrastructure,
Yes, we can.
and then this isn't based on
Puts it on staff.
input
It's on
from
that, so we
residents,
need more,
but
more staff, more
maintaining
funding to do certain things.
maintaining
Those are, but those would be
staff,
actionable
possible that you could,
Jason said
if this is our vision, then
I've heard that too. I've heard that too. Kaysville used to feel so community, and we don't feel.
Fair to say that, Josh?
Because we have cut some programs because of funding. But if we want them, we can bring them back.
I think you're spot on. SP5,
But I mean,
Sound you moved it from is
economic
gonna be big.
well, but like the tree lights, or stuff like that. That was really fun.
I think
to
a
do.
lot of concern is
But it was fun.
like this CRA.
like this year, last
That was always-
July 4th, we're going to have a week of events.
Yeah, I like that.
I am definitely not worried about providing diverse housing
Basketball.
options. That is the least of my worries.
Sandball, what about pickleball, what about open space? So they're all things that we already, I know we have infrastructure we already have.
Right. Just put them in that same.
Just put them in the same.
I wonder, I think
More
you
like
could
have some events.
incorporate some of
So we're trying to do
that
things
into
like
capital
that.
investment and
Festival,
infrastructure.
if
you drill down on each
so
of
many
these,
people go to.
we have these
I think
broad
that's why.
overarching categories and then we drill down later. as
I
we
know,
go
it's just
through.
people, they, yeah. And this guy goes over there and hangs out for the day, and I realize it. Who
Yeah,
wants to
and
staff that? Do we
totally,
hire a company, or what do we do?
yeah, we're totally open, I mean.
And then everyone says, yeah, we'll do it with help, and then, wait, 4th of July? We haven't felt like I understand, but those are the things.
No, I totally agree.
You know, you kind of feel like, okay, it's a hometown, it's a hometown things, but they cost money, I understand. But I have heard that community feel, and we're growing too. You know, we've got a lot of new people. So, and how do you combine the list with having a movie night?
Because I think those dovetail
We're not even on, people from other cities coming, which is fine, but.
I can't take away the fact that, well, you're saying, I
I feel like I'm like, oh, where are you from? They're like,
I'll be honest.
and I'm like,
Like it was building that, just was because of the money it was gonna cost, but anymore,
I
I'm
know.
kinda
And,
comfortable.
you know, going through, I didn't go this year, but going through lines, so where you from? Everywhere but here.
Not mine.
Let's get the next one. Yeah, that
Can't
one's
stick
Well, that was nice of us.
tell them they have to bring proof of address.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, you're out. Candy Cruise.
I don't like wasting.
Okay, who are the holdups?
They're having a healthy conversation over
Should be
here.
no surprise, but it was my.
Yep.
I didn't say hard
Use help tickets on that.
Mike is a piece paper, Mike is a piece paper.
I got thrown under the bus. Oh, shit. Chief, I tried to sit here and keep my mouth shut.
Oh, wait, it's
Oh, see, they did it backwards too.
Holy cow.
All right.
You guys see any kind of
Maybe this group should go do their own thing, so we can guarantee me stabbing you in the throat.
SP1,
Do we really want this group to
Do that.
involved in decisions?
Meeting's over. You guys go.
All right.
Wait, we have the city attorney on that side, and you guys can't get it on the right?
on the right side of the page.
These are like trick posters.
Lawyers have people for that kind of stuff.
Well, some do. Some
His holes in the desert are already dug.
I should have said this earlier. Can we have one spokesperson from each table who's going to tell us why they,
Public Works Director of the Year.
maybe it's the point, why they had the conversation they did?
Not director of the year, it's just
Why'd you pick?
random employee of the year.
We started, listen, everyone, please, Josh.
Right, you guys are.
Oh, what? Yeah, that's us in the orange. We started with SP1, which was build and maintain quality, long-lasting infrastructure and connectivity. But we put down with an emphasis on marketing, and what did I write there?
To the community.
Marketing to the community. And what we decided as a group is that this is probably the most important thing on the list is having long-lasting infrastructure. We don't necessarily like connectivity. I don't know if it's talking about like internet, but hopefully not. I think we're talking more about like the infrastructure, right? And for us, part of the problem is that these aren't the sexy things. These aren't the things that people get excited about spending money on. And so if we could be better at marketing to the community about the condition of these items, for example, if we had a flyer that was color and showed one of the old pipes that keeps breaking or, you know, the condition of the pipe, and it said, this is where your water's coming from, you know, Josh, or something like almost a little bit of a scare tactic, but also just showing people like this is what we're dealing with. Then when we come to them and say we need to raise taxes because we need to do this big water project, it may be that they're coming to us and saying, will you please fix the water? We don't like the way these pipes look. So we think that SP1 is very important, but only if you approach it with a good marketing strategy. Yeah? GP3, enrich our city center and downtown. We feel like that coincides with GP1, staying true to our heritage. So we kind of feel like if you're going to enrich the city center and downtown, that we try and enrich it in a way that that makes people feel like they're still in Kaysville. And that kind of goes with what Perry, what did you say with our the CRA. Yeah, that which we don't speak of. And then SP3, make decisions based on information, fact, and analysis, not ego, individual political agendas. Perry and I didn't agree with this one, but the other three did. And so apparently we have the ego. That's it. Thank you. I'm just kidding, we agree.
Anybody from the center table want to volunteer? Summarize?
Feel free.
We feel like you're on our table.
Yeah.
I was going to surrender.
I can do it
Just
again.
gonna accurately portray what we said.
So as we talked, we felt SP3, I don't know that we rate these in any specific order, just the three that we felt were the most, but SP3, which is make information based on facts rather than, with that caveat though, is that we do have the facts, we need to be prepared to make the decision and not just skirt around it, but let that be a guiding force. We also felt GP1 / SP4 were relatively the same thing, respecting the past, embrace the future, our identity. Kaysville made its identity many, many years ago, and so kind of like we are who we are, so let's own who we are. We're Kaysville. We don't need to try to be somebody else, but let's just be Kaysville. And then finally, SP1. We felt like SP1, maintain, build, quality, long-lasting, a lot of those things will lead into some of the other GP general plan things if we're focusing on building, maintaining quality, long-lasting infrastructure and connectivity. So that's kind of what we discussed. Anything else?
No, that's great. Perfect.
Nice job. All right, last table, please.
Josh. Yeah, it's Josh. Our award-winning spokesman.
It's his,
I don't know if you've seen Wedding Singer, but I have a microphone, so you have to listen to every word that I have to say. SP1, similar to the comments from everybody else, and I think one of the important things from our discussion was recognizing, and this is really hard to limit it to three, but with these three broad things, it can be drilled down into much more specific things. John, as you mentioned, like, oh, this doesn't have the sexy things in it. Like, it can as we drill down. But the SP5, I think, like Cole said, recognizing, you know, hey, we're a veteran community. We are who we are, but trying to maximize those opportunities for economic development in Kaysville so that it maybe eases some of the tax burden otherwise on residents. And it helps drive some of the infrastructure and other development that takes place in Kaysville. And then GP3, I don't remember the conversation that we had there. But enriching our city center and downtown was our last one. So, amen.
Thanks, Josh. All right. So this is not surprising, right? But infrastructure is huge. All three. And what, GP3?
SP1 is on.
Or sorry, did I say SP1? I meant to say SP1, not 3, sorry. SP1 had 3 votes, is what it meant to say. All right, so, am I seeing it right? Yeah, sorry, infrastructure. Right, so GP3 had 2. Am I seeing that right? That's the next most popular.
SP.
And then
SP3.
SP3 had 2, right?
Yeah, SP3.
And was there any other that was mentioned twice? I don't think so. GP, SP4 ones. So, all right. So let's do this now. Let's break up the groups. Maybe elected officials stay where you are, but have all the staff shift one table this way. So you guys go back there.
Okay.
And then,
Pleasure.
now let's talk about let's talk a little bit more about what SP1 means.
Hold it above my head like it's a boxing match.
Get another cookie.
Title card.
Look at your tray of food. That little molded. It's true.
Yeah. All right.
This is about to get convoluted.
We were gonna. This is highly complicated and.
Oh, those are delicious.
Now we get Nick. Okay.
They are tasty. They are good.
Okay. Oh, Josh. Okay.
It's like, why, what is it? 3 bowls of cereal when you just put it in a Tupperware.
I got 2 billion green tea, black tea, and
I do too. I do too. And just show them.
It's very good for your gut health.
like the conversation that came happening. Let's make Kaysville.
Do you guys need employees for
We need to just be, the advertisement should go out part of there.
For summer
We could
or
also do a better
for?
Yeah, for sure. We are who we are for a reason.
Looking for?
Did we lose them?
We bought
All right.
into this.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, let's do the same thing now that we just did, except for rather than talking about what the most important guiding principles are, clearly SP1, building and maintaining quality and long-lasting infrastructure is not surprisingly very important. So what does that look like to you now? Are there specific initiatives? And so as an example, maybe it's streets. Say our streets aren't looking as good as we'd like, we want to improve streets. So that's as specific as I would really want to go at this point, just improve streets or improve water, or have a plan that we can financially be sustainable with our street program or whatever it might be. Rather than, I wouldn't get into the level of weeds of, hey, let's have a plan where we repave every street every 20 years or something. Let staff figure out what that timeline and that budget looks like. But tell us within infrastructure, what are you thinking? Give us some more ideas what that looks like in terms of building and maintaining quality, long-lasting infrastructure.
Okay.
And again, if you come up with maybe 3 ideas of what that looks like.
So what does it mean?
Just for number 1, SP1.
Just for number 1, yes, thanks, Mayor.
Power structure.
What does that look like to us? Okay.
Something else.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think we should have some sort of standard for the Wakings in our, as far as quality. Someone talked about like, with lights or
Like a
whatever.
2% towards beautification?
Yeah.
Like budget bid or something
Yeah,
like that
I think
percentage?
And every time we do a project, just having certain standards of it should look at least this good.
qualities that.
And I don't know
Like
how you do
Farmington
that.
does.
Seriously hurt
Farmington
Yeah,
does
so
that.
Farmington has a couple things that they do.
There's some other communities that take similar approaches. Salt County does
Doesn't necessarily mean the most
Salt
expensive.
County takes the percentage approach. Hey, during
Nate's
a
told me about
project,
some of his neighbors.
whatever your budget for the project is, you've got to have a
Build
certain
it,
percentage of
follow
that
ways
that is
or
dedicated to
doing our
That's
roads.
existing infrastructure.
artistic
I think that maybe that.
Power extreme if you go and look enough.
I guess it took,
It
took something
looks like
to me personally.
I'm just saying
That's not a.
what does it want?
Oh, and SB one, you're saying quality is your word.
Is that
I
considered
got
dress
you.
code, or is
For
that?
me, is the
Is it-
key. I don't know if it's form-based.
How long
but
will
it's
it
part of their
last?
zone. Yeah. Are we
But
good
did the
enough
state
to-
take that away from cities?
Because a lot of all
Being
these
able
things
to
cost a lot of money.
Save
Yeah.
the aesthetics when people develop?
Are we gonna go?
But we need to say, oh, so not only what's underneath the road, but okay, when the road's finished, we want it to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Trees or whatever.
you could go
together,
to the extent of like,
entertain, like you could have
these
like a
specific streets we've identified as
like just have a nice TV and
main corridors, and we want them to look
I
like
think it is a policy.
You know, Farmington has their main street, the street that connects to
to bring in
the corrections center,
Star Wars quality.
It has to have these trees,
So-
Be awesome.
this park strip.
The other one was just good quality.
But maybe it's more of a
That was,
Well, I also look like we're talking about. What is that?
I mean, farming,
go to.
There's multiple opportunities to focus on image.
I mean, they made that a high
I think that
priority.
it should burden a lot of elected officials.
What Farmington
It's
did.
like, they budget $200,000 a year for it, and
to
they hear about
feel
somebody,
like
they go through, and they GPS out some places that need to be fixed, and they
It's
spend that money
pretty
every year.
It's something that I think I'm so proud of that thing, and I got to be part of that.
To the front.
It makes me proud of the city that I live in. I think
Give a priority to housing.
I think appearance and
Layton
image.
City.
I like it.
So those are the things
I would like to
They
see
came in
Okay.
our overpasses and our street, our entrance, our gateways to our city
We were just the same.
look nice. They look like crap.
B gates.
Yeah, big gateways.
Gateways, B gateways.
Like I remember
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
we had young
You go to Kaysville and you think, okay, I'm gonna come look at this house that's $1 million, and you're like, this is
And they
crap.
wanted
I mean, until you get to the house and you go, oh yeah, it's a nice house, but the city doesn't always.
looking at doing this, but what we want you to do to help us with that
Yes.
is clean up that
It's just really ugly. I remember driving my uncle who's from North Carolina, retired 4-star. Like, oh, so this is where we live. Well, I'm kind of taking it back.
She got off in Farmington and then made her way to Kaysville.
He lives he lives on Pinehurst, on the 9th hole. And I'm like, well, this is my city. Oh. And seeing it through someone else's eyes.
We don't want
Oh,
to
yeah,
hire
this looks
somebody
like
to
garbage.
whatever.
So anyway, yeah,
I
okay.
mean, there's costs.
So
Like-
you want to put that, have images.
Does that fall under, do you think that falls under same quality or
Or
does
if
that?
you better way to say that.
Image.
I don't know, that's just what I think of when I see.
That ends up being almost, the part of
Current
it
standards.
is making data-driven decisions.
That's kind of what we talked about earlier.
Based off
analysis.
Okay. And then
Anytime we're working on,
gateways.
I'm just trying to get a big pet peeve.
Don't have your kids
on
be
some of these
doctors and
type
lawyers
of
anymore.
projects,
Have
like they
them
should
be
always
have them
just
buy a
enhance
dump
the way
truck
that
and a
it
track
works,
when
but
they get out of high school. They'll
doing
be
this project,
much better
whatever
off.
it is, whether it's parks, public works, power,
I don't know, I mean, it's
what are the opportunities to enhance safety?
there's a huge demographic.
And that sounds like a super vague
Well, I think a few years ago, you talked about
Hate regime of younger
That's
ones.
right.
and you were saying this,
In every project you look
but it was
at,
the push.
like combining
It wasn't being driven.
the road.
Yeah. Hey, while we're here,
Here's a target about the high school, they have a lot of school events, not so much.
Did you suggest a percentage? Oh, I guess you guys can drill that down, right?
And
So we
then
don't
you
have
get 50
to.
and above,
Okay.
they don't,
Enhanced safety.
they don't care
enhanced-
anymore because they would prefer that they
I
use
love,
people
I mean, I was always sad when the
entertaining.
trees on Main Street went down. I realized it was the
But
Main Street business owners
it's
who
such
complained
a
about those.
higher quality, just seeing it like such a huge.
yeah, before I worked here, I was like, oh, that's a
Down
bummer. So dumb.
Yeah.
more
And like you said, now we can expand to it.
But I mean, Kaysville, it's supposed to be a quaint, cute little town. You go up to Hebert, and they've got cute little planters, and I realize we don't need this, I don't know, can we not put planters up? Can we not do things like that? I'd just say,
You're not spending as much down the road.
So maybe we just say like we have a
I
little
like
SB3 or something.
I think if they say, don't step over $1 to pick up $1.
Well, still, if you're paying for it, I think that they'd be much more okay.
It may take you longer to do certain things.
Well, honestly, what are they gonna do to us? Yeah, what are they gonna do? They're gonna drive down and think, oh, that looks really nice. Wait, is this our road? Thank you, Kaysville. So, anything else that we should add to this? Imagine
Is it appropriate in here to mention something like economic development, you know, having the infrastructure that we build, utilities, roads, things like, and maybe it's not just economic, like, we want to attract people, or we want to make
economic
Kaysville a place where people want to live, or we want to relocate it.
With quality?
economic recreation, rec, and.
This is the things that I feel like the city has to provide. They have to provide power, sewer, water, fire, roads. That's what they have to
Project out.
Yeah.
Like keeping in mind that, like, hey, if we're doing this,
But there's a certain thing in there that actually makes a city a city, and that's called community.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant
Is what you do.
And we should look for opportunities to do that in the plan.
Anymore, the bigger the city gets.
For sure, exactly, and that's the way you said it's perfectly, because you're right, it won't benefit us, but it will benefit the future. And that's what I keep telling people, all right, that's what we are trying to plan for, not today, not even tomorrow, 10, 20 years out.
Firemen in, pay them overtime. We have to bring parks people in, they have to work overtime and all this stuff. And so you say, is that really fit into number one?
But when we're doing these also.
oh, on 400 West?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is the city getting outside of the scope of just providing the necessary service that people need to have and be able to love?
I think the mayor brought up an interesting point. And I hadn't really thought about this, but like, as we're doing this, keeping in mind, like, hey, this is stuff that could be 10, 30, 100 years down the road. So maybe asking questions
I
of
think as
ourselves.
far as, so one, I brought this up
Man,
with
if
my.
only we could go back
staff,
10, 30, 100 years and talk
With
to
connectivity, I think there's a little
whomever,
bit of
and
a.
like,
It is hard, especially when you got half of them.
invest in Apple stock and
We
do this with Kaysville City.
It's so,
East to west.
you hear so much.
Now, how's our connectivity as far as?
Did we fail when we gave half the property to farming for tides and creative for, I don't know, we brought in a water system, I don't know. When we gave Layton,
How do we?
I mean, it used to be Kaysville.
We connected in the community
And we-
sense, like.
In the time, but it was just, it's not that it's short-sighted.
Yeah, do we need more community events?
When
Do we
people
need
show
more,
up,
like,
it's
how do we get our
short-sighted because they
community
don't,
to be connected?
they're thinking about right now.
Sure.
Like, and which we all do, and I get it.
It's hard not to.
No criticism to that, but there's gotta be a
Let's
future
see.
plan
What is this?
that we
How do
have
you
to,
say
like you
that?
said, think about. Things that, wells that we'll never drink from.
Yeah.
Is it because is it that you get your streets
Community
Yeah, for sure. Instead of just, okay, well, today, well,
Community.
okay, anything else you wanna?
I mean, that was my campaign promise, connecting Kaysville from Angel, to 89 to Angel.
Connecting Kaysville.
But I just pretty much, I just said that shit, I wasn't meaning it, you know? Just wanted all their votes. And then I get a bunch of people call me, you know, we go past Angel, where are we at? Angel above 89, and I'm like, sound good, ordinance. This guy was like, well, this guy knew what it was.
That's like, I think that's
So why should I vote for you?
something that I've heard from the mayor.
But what, but like when you think in connection.
I think everybody another minute, or you guys are pretty close
Put
to.
in
Like trails.
elected
East
officials.
to west.
Yeah, no, I think
That's also.
I think
Talking infrastructure.
people feel like they stop.
Tangible evidence of the hair that we guys
And we won't know.
Not to you.
And connectivity.
Scary.
I mean, like talking to east, west.
There's no way to get over this.
That's a huge priority right now. Yes.
Yeah, as a person biking or walking, you're
Exactly. It's all part of.
I know.
But it's something to keep in mind when they're doing.
I agree, I think that's huge.
Doing.
Connectivity. I
When
think
UDOT does
everything
come
we do
through
has to
to
be.
do,
That's a safety thing, that's a sense of community thing. I think that's a
Got it.
point of the
to say like, look,
This is what we need.
A bridge for people to walk and ride their bikes.
Okay, let me ask, they're gonna close
The
down the
next 20
Shepherd,
years.
Please write it down.
Shepherd Lane.
20 plus years.
Well, I'm nervous. They're gonna
Because that's what's hard, that's what's frustrating, because I look around like, we're
Next
wasting
day,
our time.
sorry, I am not gonna stay until.
They're gonna tear that down.
Okay, right, we're done.
So,
Okay,
we,
I
well,
don't know,
but we
does
still process applications
Who would know?
very nimbly.
yeah, they do.
And you can really, that is based on the simplicity of our code.
But how wide?
That's the only reason I would run for another term.
More time.
Stuff that we talked about 6 years ago,
You and I
we're
will
still
get
talking about.
You know, to have some debate to get on
You
the
know,
agenda.
sorry, leave people going.
The council has said,
Every
that's not
time they have
acceptable,
like
we want you to do it.
every time they have
Just do something, do something.
people are kids going there to ride their bird. Walking up the road.
That's what I'm about doing on connectivity.
Right, but then
I just think, I think our connected
Have 3 days to decide.
in fact, we just.
because we are going,
I would say east versus west.
The commercial subdivisions are held to the same standards as the residential subdivisions, so.
connections, that's all.
I thought you had something wrong with one.
Absolutely.
Hey, Josh.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, we were hoping
And
we
right
would
now,
beat
I'm in
Abby's
this
group.
workshop, so I'm still.
But we know we
Josh
like
is staring across the table, laughing at
Seriously.
my conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
All me.
I have a question. My horse is down on that Jordan Valley water.
He's like, what are you doing? What do you need, bro? So will you tell me 3 times, what do you want?
Where
About any pocket value.
No, he's like, what are you doing?
You're talking about.
What
it's
are
just
you
on
doing?
Kays, south of Burton.
Even the city.
Is there any way I can
I'd like to pick and choose development applications to.
I'm sitting in my car
Do
watching.
you want to start on this side? This time?
Leave me alone.
Anybody want to be a spokesperson?
just like
Taking it out.
it's possible? It's like, it'd be nice to have lights and everything.
Sometimes I will pull over in a parking lot and just talk on the phone. And then he goes, I saw your car
Okay,
over there.
SB1, yes. So,
because
talked about
The second you said that, I
So I
knew.
just, he goes, oh, are you having an affair?
Parking.
All right.
That's John.
That's the most random thing I've ever heard of. What are you talking about? Okay, yes, we're paying attention. Yes, we're here.
okay, SP1, our top of the list was sidewalks, actually. Just the little things over the years have kind of gotten away from us, and we'd like to
Family.
focus more on some of the little things like sidewalks, and then of course streets. We all drive on our streets. One thing that was mentioned was striping, having a more robust long-term plan for things like striping, or at the very least all the crosswalks in the city every year, every other year, and just kind of planning ahead for that. And we talked about some of the other surrounding cities have built in like yearly $200,000 buckets to work on sidewalks, and I feel like as a city kind of get back to that. And not this last year we raised the sidewalk fund a little bit during budget season, but then we ended up pulling it back out just because other priorities came into play. But just kind of being a little more strategic long term and getting back to some of these little things. And then of course utility lines, it's a no-brainer. Coming up with a strong plan or strong talking points that allows the council to really talk about that to the public and to make those justifications if we have to raise taxes or have to prioritize certain projects. So.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, spokesperson?
You don't want it.
Go for it, Thomas. Go for
You have to
it.
do it on the other, I'll do it.
Okay, Abby.
All right, Abby, thank you.
So we thought it would be a good idea as looking to the future to have like image and appearance standards for any project moving forward, and just saying, look, if this is going to be our project, this is what it should look like, you know, whether that's on Main Street in 200, it's got certain lights or whatever, but kind of identifying those things that make Kaysville and applying them to all of our projects, and that includes gateway enhancements, because we've all agreed that the entrances to the city need some love. And then everything we do should, you know, even if we're just repaving, it shouldn't just be a repave, but we should always be looking to like enhance the safety of the projects we're doing. They should also enhance economic, recreation, and community in whatever ways that's possible. We talked about connectivity as well, and I think we kind of, it's fine. We wanted to talk about how it's difficult, you know, for the fire to get to the other side of town, and so we need to work on some of that connectivity, but also like the east-west, you know, community connectivity too, and how that's a thing that's going on in the city, and we should work on that. And then, you know, just planning for the future, looking at the next 20+ years.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay, agreed. For cheap. There we go.
I talk all the time. Beautiful.
So our first one was we need to quit stepping over $1 to pick up a dime, which is what I think Kaysville is notorious for. The example I brought up was years ago when Young Kia was on 2nd North and they wanted the city to kind of clean up the off-ramp in order to push their dealerships more, and we didn't do anything with that. And then we lost Young Kia and we got a trailer outfit out there, which drops our sales tax. And so I think I think we do that in a lot of areas. So anyway, that's an example, but that's something that we wanted to focus on. Also, quality and longevity in our infrastructure, just trying to do it the right way with the right materials so it lasts. And maybe that component like Abby brought up of having a standard that it looks this way, or whatever those standards are that we want to meet. And we also talked about connectivity and both physically and just ideologically, however you say that, like, you know, both East and West have a different kind of identity and react, I think, to staff at least differently. And they're almost two different cities. But also, how do we connect that? And we looked at even physically, we have a hard time connecting these two parts of the city. We really only have 2 east-west corridors, and if you look at both of them, they're not ideal. Burton's kind of a mess, and 200 North is a mess also. So we've definitely got some work to do in that area, but that also is going to be a cost associated with that.
Thanks, Chief.
No tickets. For John.
All right.
Pick up a lot of revenue.
So what are the connections? Any common themes you want to say? It seems like the connectivity is one. Can you remind me, Green Group, when you talk about sidewalks again?
Not again.
What was?
We're not really hitting sidewalks specifically. I think what we're trying to find is sustainable infrastructure. Is trying to maintain what we have without letting it degrade to the point where it becomes a hazard or a problem. And so I think we're trying to get to the point that we're trying to sustain our existing infrastructures. And if that means we need to up our maintenance somehow, then that's what we should be probably doing. Not so worried about building onto it as much as we should be probably trying to sustain our existing stuff, and should be maybe more focused on how that should be done.
When Orange, like when you talk about don't step over $1 to pick up a dime, can you speak more on that? Is that related to like what Mike's talking about, do you think, in terms of focusing on having the sustainability, the financing to keep?
I think it goes in line with number 2, our quality, longevity. I mean, don't go cheap, and be willing to, put some money where your mouth is. If you want something that's going to last, we have to put our money where our mouth is on that. And
Jason, I think to Mike's point, what I got out of it was, and it ties into the over $1. Nate, you said it, You had to back out some money that you put in for this over here, so now we're a year behind, and costs are not going down. So that, to me, is stepping over $1 to pick up the time.
Yeah, and you think about it for, when you're talking as a city, as a council, a lot of time that ends up going with the tax rates.
Sure.
You know, that we're not as willing to do that when maybe we need to be more willing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think part of that is helping us to know what that means. You know, we say we want this level of quality. Well, for example, the roundabout at Burton. You know, to us we're like, oh, that's horrible. But that is a grade A roundabout in the roundabout world, which we're not part of. So I think it's communicating that and really having us ask you good questions so that we can understand what you're providing. And as we talk about this, enhancements, beautification, quality, longevity, we don't know what that means. You know, because it's not our world. So you need to be able to tell us. And you have said it, but maybe more visually.
Yeah, can I add to that point too? I would love more feedback because sometimes I'm not sure if I'm doing that very same thing, trying to pick up the dimes. I just don't know, and so I would welcome a lot more feedback from the city if I am looking at something maybe not long-term enough or the right way, just to get a little more clarification.
To me, a lot of this just speaks to the need to have a plan, like at the bottom of yellow there, having a long-term plan where we know we've got the funding, we've got a plan that we're going to be able to maintain our infrastructure, and yeah, I'm excited about that because we're going to be getting into that in the budget work sessions with this new vendor that we've onboarded, Waterworth. And I think a lot of you know about that already. We're going to be looking at our power and water initially, but we have the opportunity to expand that model into streets and other infrastructure as well. But that'll help us kind of see over the next several years what our infrastructure costs look like, and if our current funding's, you know, sustainable to do what we need to do. So.
I think our don't step over dollar also ties into that plan. Like having a plan so that you're prepared, that you know what's coming up, so that these decisions are based on, well, these into the other ones, based
Data,
on facts
yeah,
and stuff.
Well, and I'd like to point out too that a lot of the times when you present things to the council, like, and I'm not picking on Brian for sure, because I'm really happy with what he did down on Sunset by putting lights in, and now that street's lit now. I think it's awesome. Thank you, appreciate that. It was really dark.
Take him down. He's about to lose his light privilege.
But it's the things when we see the council sees things like certain computer programs or something that come to us and they're $300,000 or something and a $50,000 a year maintenance on them, and it basically all we can see out of it is I get a text when my power's out. Well, my light doesn't turn on when my power's out. So I need to see the worth of that kind of thing, to see that that money is going to something that is truly needed, helps keep the core basics for everybody, and helps keep costs down. To me, that just looks like an expense that's more of a luxury than a necessity. Now, you talk to Brian, it's probably a necessity, not a luxury. But that's what we don't, it's hard for us to understand that, you know, because to tell you the truth, I don't care if I get a text when my power's out. My light just doesn't turn on. So those are the kinds of things we want to make sure when we get these as council, is that something that is providing the basic necessity that a city should provide to its citizens?
Well, and I think that speaks to the quality question. What kind of a quality do we want? Well, we live in a pretty technologically savvy community. And so, you know, like Lee's not a computer person, so he could care less if he gets a text either. But a lot of people in our community do appreciate that, and they do look for that. And so it's to that question of, you know.
I'm not meaning to pick on that one specifically.
I'm just
generalization.
Saying, no, I get it. I'm just saying that there is a standard that we're kind of used to, and that we need to determine, you know, what that is. And so, but we need your help in order to determine that.
Like, and I think too, like, to me, the value of that, and yes, not picking on power, but just kind of staying on topic with that. You're absolutely right. Do I need a text message to tell me my power's out? I'm pretty bright, and when the room's dark, I know the power's out. But what I do like about that is that, you know, I can go to, and I'm in West Bounds, I have Rocky Mountain Power, right? They'll have like an estimate of when power would be restored. That to me is a lot more valuable than, hey, your power's out, because I know maybe I need to go get coolers and dry ice so that I can keep my food from spoiling. Right, the storms we had in 2021, that was a big thing. People's power was out for days. So, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, right, like, and you're right, there's things that people care about and things that people don't care about. But my thoughts with that would be, like, this is something that helps staff provide more information to people on a more timely basis. Because if we're only here 8 to 5 and somebody wants to call at 9 p.m. and find out when the power is going to be back on, we're not here. You know, so, I mean, that's a good example to kind of talk through. Also, I don't want Kaysville to feel like they have the whole market on tripping over $1 to save a dime, because that was a big thing in other places that I've worked as well. But I think that comes back to, you know, having this whole strategic planning session and defining what are our priorities and what do we have to have those high priorities so that we have a plan and stick to that plan.
And I think some of this we'll get into in terms of, Mike, your point about, you know, give us information so we understand the value of things. And I think we'll get into, was it GP3? But yeah, making decisions based on information, facts analysis, and things like that. So maybe we'll save some of that discussion too for that category. And I don't know how far we're going to get tonight, by the way. What time are we at? 7. So let's see if we can get at least one more of these done. I was going to get to, actually, we didn't get to you guys, or did we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry, okay.
We're just trying to find a consensus.
Oh, that's right. Everyone got a chance to that. Any other commonalities on infrastructure before we move on to the next principle? This has been great input, by the way.
I think the long lasting, you know, it's that quality, long lasting, you know, you see on the bottom sustainable, I would see that as equivalent to quality or longevity.
Plan for the next 20 years.
I think.
Well, and just like one more
Image
thing.
quality standards, I think, falls up with quality as well. Like, I really like that one. I've always thought that Park City did a really good job with that. Like, you feel.
Yeah. So we want all our tunnel car washes to now look the same.
Shut your mouth. You wash your mouth out with soap.
Hey, which one?
Mister, you mister.
All right. All right. Any other comments on infrastructure before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, another comment.
Yes.
Well, I was just asking Abby what she said about lighting. And I guess this goes back to Mike's point as well about the power. It's not so much like one particular thing, but just long-term plan and goal. Like, let's try to be a little more cohesive. Like, even the lighting, I would like to see more cohesive lighting throughout the city and kind of put focus on that. And when we get into budget season, having some of these priorities really spelled out clearly, then when it comes to those software asks or any specific asks, it'd just be helpful if all the directors work together. We kind of list the priorities based under what we all want to see moving forward as a city. Because it's really hard to know how to prioritize every department's needs and how critical those needs are compared to some of these other things. And so just going into that, as much cohesion as possible as a group is helpful.
When you talk about prioritizing, could that be tied to sustainability, you think? Just in terms of, and you know, the next 20 years, sort of, all right, here's our plan, how are we gonna take care of all these things?
Yeah, I think so, because it kind of gives an overarching idea of where the focus needs to be placed.
Where does that fit in?
This isn't on infrastructure, but it's kind of the same idea. Now, if we want to, this is to talk with personnel, okay? Because this is one of the things that I really struggle with every year, because we get an individual meets with the police, the fire. Police, we're always talking about adding more people for something. Fire, we're talking about adding more people for something. Park says we need more people. Public Works comes and says we need more people. And we're always to the point where, well, what's the highest priority? I as a council member would say, like, you know, because most of the time wages are the gift that keeps on giving. There's usually no money other than taxes that pay for a lot. Other times, sometimes there's waters and a few things like that. So I as a council member would like to say, I don't know what the highest priority personnel-wise is for the city. But we can only hire maybe 1.5, or 2 people every year at the most. And if you're going to, you need to tell us how you're going to pay for it. But you as a city should come to us and tell us what is the highest priority for personnel, instead of us just keep getting all these individual departments telling us that's their highest priority. I think the decision on what the highest priority for personnel should come from you, Jason, with the development of your department heads and getting together and saying, we've gone through and decided this is the most important position that we need to fund. Because when you're getting hit with 6 different, you don't know how to prioritize it. That's where the city should be. The people working here should prioritize that and bring it to us.
Yes.
That is one of the things that's really tough. And every ask needs a story with it too, because if we have that story and the understanding, then I am more than happy to sit up there and take arrows and tell the public, this is what we need, and this is what we have to do to get there.
Oh, that's
You're gonna fire a few.
excellent feedback.
We can always count on you.
Yeah,
It's a cold day now before we get another firefighter.
Thank you very much.
But you can have another fire truck.
And I think B2, budget objective number 2 has to do with employees. And if we had more time, I'd get into that even more tonight, but that is definitely an important part of this planning. And when we come back to the council, we will have a staffing plan and kind of here's what we propose in terms of how we prioritize that. And we will be getting into that a little bit in the budget.
Right. And I just,
workshops coming up.
this was just my opportunity to tell you that is one of the hugest frustrations as a council member that I get, because I feel like inundated with all, when I realize, I feel like that should have been something you prioritized before it came to us.
Right.
And one great, I think, put aside all these strategic plans, and one shortcoming that I think I'm repeatedly hearing from council as far as its relationship with staff is that staff needs to do a better job communicating with the council about all these things. We could do a lot better work here in Kaysville if we had a better line of communication between this group of department heads and the council and mayor. And I think that's not one of these strategic plans, but that's sure a common theme that I'm hearing over and over again that staff needs to work on.
Agreed, and I think these settings foster that.
Mm-hmm.
So more of these settings.
Yes.
I think too, I don't know what the guidelines are for when you do your city council presentations. I mean, sometimes they drag on and on and on. And it's just statistics and this is this and this, right? Like, I'd almost prefer, you get up and say, here's the shit that I need, and here's stuff that's going, wrong.
Brother, I do mine in March. You can get that. You
Love
get
it.
exactly.
Love it. Give us.
Guarantee.
No, I'm serious, because usually we only hear it during budget, right? And so if you give us kind of a year's worth to think about some of the stuff that you actually need, why you need an employee, like Mike's saying, like we can be processing in our minds, like, okay, that's why they need that. It's not, and I'm okay with like quickly brushing over the other stuff, like, you know, but.
All the good stuff you do. He's
Yeah,
okay, just
that's
good
good.
job,
I'll
thumbs
give it
up.
to everybody else.
Okay, I like it.
Even a quarterly
Maybe I'm
sort
the
of
only one that
combined
likes
meeting
that,
would maybe
but
be good.
I think it'd be good.
I think to your
Yeah.
point, Nick, it would be nice to have a work session kind of quarterly meeting to get together and, yeah, have these conversations. Because honestly, no disrespect to the roundabout. I'm sure it's amazing. But we talked about.
We won a safety award for it.
Did you? Is that why you work for?
But it doesn't have a
Public
link.
employee of the- That's awesome. Yeah. And it's amazing, Josh, and it's improved our lives so much, so thank you.
The difference between like good, better, best.
Yeah, it's, we didn't know.
What are the other components? Like when we focus on
Safety is what your job is.
they say like limitations that we put on ourselves.
Just to kind of focus back in here,
Okay, we're back.
when we're coming on infrastructure.
Yeah, just another point there, like, I know Abby is really good at like setting up meetings and meeting with everyone, and we were texting today, and I'm like, can you tell me what all the directors, you know, what you got from that? Because everyone's so busy, I'm busy, and I just don't know if I'm overstepping, if I'm reaching out. But anytime you want me to be aware of something, just text me, and I will make time to come and sit down with you or go on a drive. That door is always open. I need to do a better job of reaching out like Abby does. She's so great.
Well, and a meeting like
I
this
just
is
don't
good
wanna
because then you don't have to do it
get
5
in the way
times
of
or 6 times.
it.
You know, you text once. Okay.
All right, let's switch tables again this way. Elected officials stay where you are, staff group 1 this way.
Love you guys. Have a cookie.
Always good.
Well, it's really been good knowing you.
I feel like we already kind of talked about this.
Don't have a
segue.
cookie. No more. Yes.
Number one priority.
Bring it back.
Good time for
Have a cookie.
Waiting for a
Eat a cookie. I want a cookie. Give me.
Okay, we can focus for 10 more minutes, guys. We can do this.
I wonder if we, seriously, you already one more do it.
Bragging. Oh, there's our tongue. There's our rescues. There are all these rescues.
Jason, if they
I want to hear about the
city
deaths,
manager
man.
school, I feel like that's a skill you need.
No photos, please.
Works great in primary.
I need a rep shirt. Everybody might be here. That'd come out handy daily basis. All right, let's do one more at least, and we'll see how we feel after this. So, GP3 and SP3 both got 2 votes. Again, SP3 was make decisions based on information, facts, and analysis, and I feel like we already kind of segued into that a little bit. And then GP3 was in Richmond City Center downtown. Everyone okay if we start with SP3?
Yes.
Okay, because I think we're already in that kind of train going that direction. So let's continue to talk about that. How do we make decisions based on information, facts, and analysis? Part of that can include how do we better communicate between staff and council and maybe public even. But take a few minutes again and come up with a few ideas of how you would see what does that look like in actuality in terms of actionable goals.
Okay.
The worst part about this
I
one
think we
was
need
it did like
pictures.
it didn't just say that. Like the document was like taking out the ego of political or whatever.
I think, well, what you're already working on.
Is like that's where the
Just tell us what you absolutely need. And I know you've done it in years past, but just be just very
facts may
bold.
say
This is what we have to show.
Facts and analysis.
Because I think sometimes when we have
legislative.
it's like,
I think it's okay.
we want your input. Well, if their input, like on a subdivision it's not gonna make any difference, then it's really harsh to ask for it, because then people are thinking about it, thinking they're gonna make a difference. So if you just give us the information and tell us this is what has to happen, these are our priorities, which Jason I know is gonna do, staffing and stuff.
So,
Our only decision is yes or no, it's not, oh, we don't know which one is more important, you know? We just need to communicate that, and I think maybe a quarterly
Jason's gotta
against,
be the referee.
or if not that, however, whatever you guys decide.
And that's what a city
as far as
manager's job
getting
is,
together is
to decide what are the highest priorities in the city, you know?
I know, but we don't put trust on you.
If we don't get, if I don't get an assistant chief or deputy chief, I'm leaving. Well, then maybe you need to leave if that's not the high
Well, and you know,
priority.
and that's really good that you communicated that.
And I don't,
I guess
it's
from
so
our
hard
perspective, at
for
least from
both
mine,
you guys
I'm
to come
thinking,
in.
that's really, in my mind, it's not recommending policy, it's saying, okay, we
Each
have to
one
have
of you
3
got all this
people.
stuff, but
Here's why.
realistically,
And then you tell us, and
really
we
a
say,
high
okay,
priority.
well, we can do that.
I think there's a lot of things where you're not going to have a lot of
But, and then
data
the
sets
policy is
for a
crafted
specific
after
decision.
that,
And I
a
think
decision
that's
is
great.
made, but maybe it's.
There's this one thing
But I
over here
understand
as
from your perspective,
legislature
you're not
that says
telling us how to do our jobs.
300,000.
At the same time, it's impossible for us to tell you how to do ours. No, you only need 2 and a half people, and here's why.
Well, that's great,
We don't know.
but we also have all these
So
other
I think
things.
just being
What
able to
our
tell
water
us
and
this is what we
sewer
gotta
and
have.
power systems
And then we can kick it around for sure, but at least we know, this is absolutely a necessity.
If we have a
Because I do
heritage,
think
a
over the last
cohesive
couple
owner
of years,
that
we've really
this
established the
part
fact
of the
that we
city
have a
More
good.
meetings,
Don't you
more,
feel like
I
having a
think,
plan.
I think once the
in what you're telling us?
process to
I think there's
one
100%
city, there's only so much, and some decisions that might be
And
simple,
what you're
like
telling us,
only, well,
we're not
this
just
thing
thinking
says
you're
this,
pulling
so.
stuff
You have
out
to
of
be able
the
to
air,
operate a city,
trying to
and you have to
magically
decide what your priorities
convince
are.
you
The
to
house
decision.
boat burned down there a few years ago.
So I think there's a lot of
It'd be
trust.
great for
And
probably
just
like 16
I think a lot of the time.
I think the guy that bought it was so pissed. He's like, can we do this?
I think it's right, it's Brad Wilson's backyard, right?
Oh, wait,
That's
that's
one
one
of the reasons.
another.
I thought you wanted to build his own house.
Sorry,
Willing to.
Is there he wanted to build a house and then with the rest of
And
it,
then also in the
do
same
like
time, I've
2
got, you know,
Oh,
no,
bullshit.
you know, victims advocate.
Yeah, I think we need to.
I got letters,
Yeah,
now
we
he's
need
not
to be able to
doing
make
No,
a decision.
no, every year he's like,
And
yep,
that's what we need to do. But if you make it easier for us to respond,
Definitely.
then we can.
You need a guy working the substation. You can't get all that at once. You have to tell us what this priority.
And that's why I think it's fire with the have a plan.
Yes.
If year one, our focus is,
Give us
here's
a strong
what
recommendation.
PD needs this, fire needs
And
this.
here's how it's gonna happen.
If that's what helps me, if like, if I know that, if we have a plan, it may not be my
And I was
choice.
thinking
If I know that I have a
specifically on
plan
the,
coming up,
on
where
the
the
heritage,
range
how do we
rises
get
to
through
the
the
top,
heritage, and how do we?
that's helpful for me, and even to convey to my staff, hey, we have a plan. Here's the plan.
But you're
Our needs are
pointing
gonna
on
be
the
met.
infrastructure.
We've been turned down for 4 years to get that extra sanitary
If you're looking at
section or
a
whatever.
hierarchy
It's
of
our turn. We're gonna
But it's
get.
creating that
decision
plan.
making,
And that same list every year should be.
what is the
Yeah, for
infrastructure
sure.
going to
Exactly.
handle?
Yeah. Right. Which
you can
I'm sure
tell
less
all you want to
Staff, you
do.
Make
decide
that
there's gonna be
call.
priorities higher than jump set.
That's great, that's a completely
I mean, you can
valid
say,
set of data, however,
if we said, what's the hierarchy?
physically possible.
One person a year. That's
For
it.
this reason,
One
or
regional
it
employee.
contradicts this
As
other.
long as
realizing
you do that,
Doesn't
then
want and need.
you would know, and then you would figure out how are we gonna pay for it on this
That way, like if one department's hemorrhaging staff because people don't stay because there's too much work, right? I think we could recognize that and say, okay, so we have this need, but this is a more important need, and I think that's kind of like the type of feedback that I'm hearing that the council would like to see more from. Is like,
And you
yeah,
realize
the council
obviously,
you're busting
I'm
your
gonna
stand
want
every single time you have
the highest
a
priority,
call or
but
something.
that's
what we
also
do.
not.
And so then it comes
And it's
down
been a
to,
frustrating.
when is that?
We do like a spectrum, like it's
However,
like
come across that.
this is top tier.
It's not a price
taxes
Maybe
one
not all,
year.
but a lot of things we want, and then this is medium, and this is
Huge difference for taxes.
like, one of them, like, okay.
It's fairly unprecedented for us.
I can, yeah.
But
I just
then
was.
there are also, there's more needs.
And maybe like
It's
to
just
that,
like,
like, this is tier two, this is tier three. And I know you would love that.
Well, to your point, Abby, that you said sometimes I want to give something more than asking, right?
Yeah.
And then it would give us the options. That's what you're saying.
Right, yeah, to
that's true.
say, okay, if we want to get more, what would be the next step for us?
Years ago, what is that? I think we have a lot of stuff.
I think as far as like the notes, it would be, to me, it'd be a plan. A plan that is fed to council.
And they're conscious decisions that we make.
Instead of,
based on
I think one of the things that you guys are doing is you're coming to the council and asking us to prioritize it.
You know,
We don't work here, we just.
I mean, not having water in Palisades area was a problem.
There are all individual
Yes.
priorities, not as a collective.
Not as a collective.
And the more
We see it amongst organizations. And we did do that this last year. We all sat down and we felt like there were more priorities in the police department.
And we felt
Jason, we have copies.
I hate to put the onus on him, but as city manager, you took that position on hand, and that's.
Which is really hard.
When that budget comes to us, we're prioritizing.
That couldn't help us. Not with $100.
After you guys have all fought it out, say, this is the priorities that we have come up with.
Realizing that they do
This is our
have a
most
lot of
significant
development and projects going on.
That's even,
I
really.
still think at least once a quarter.
Then I'm saying,
It would be great
that's
to
a
just.
buy-in from everybody. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah, I would be okay with that too. I
like
love
it.
that actually.
But
But I know it's time on staff and everything else, but
You're gonna hire,
or every other
we're saying
month.
the people hire one person a year for the next.
Sometimes I help Sandra write that all.
But I think that's
Regardless of whether it's
And I get to bring it up in we're saying
and then
this.
these decisions are on data. You know, like the tools, the software is gonna give us the data. And you guys give us the data. And we just have to
Real
make a
quick.
decision.
I
Not
was
on
teaching
how's this gonna look or who's gonna be mad. And I fully get it. It's really hard to do that.
more, you know, and that's
This is what our city needs, and I think our highest priority, of course, is to be fiscally responsible, but that includes.
I was gonna say, John,
So scared to make a decision. I think that our city behind 4 years is our whole time, we just didn't.
Pulls out Aaron's
Do not. I think we need to be open and honest, this is how it's possible.
Okay, so.
And if everybody.
So that when you see it, it's like.
One thing that data
That it's time for us to say.
decisions does is it
Jason,
maximizes.
this is
I
our
think it means it's time
collective
for us to say.
plan.
Over here.
So you're not guessing, well, what's the part? It's like,
But
oh, no,
over
we
here,
know.
I think we've said,
Whether
we
it's an
want a
apples to apples
sustainable
comparison or not.
infrastructure. Okay, so let's sustain where
In
we're at and what we're
an
doing, and
environment
make
of
sure that
being
we're
fiscally
covering our
conservative,
cost of
because
living
we all believe in that.
Consistency is a huge
our
thing.
inflation.
But I think
Let's
we have to
sustain
sustain
what we do for all.
Since there's priorities for new
Yeah,
growth.
and it saves you so
then
much
you've got to tell us
grief,
what that is.
heartache, and wasted time.
It was the stop sign analogy for you that taught me, right? Like when you first got in and someone wanted to stop sign.
Yeah.
Once you put that in, then you realize like, oh,
Yeah,
When I started looking at it, I was
That's not
like,
representative.
well, I guess if we take that approach, like, we'll be doing this everywhere.
Guys out there in your
And it might have negative effects on the way traffic flows. It doesn't jive with the standards. And start to realize that little decisions have really huge impacts.
It's interesting because in the past, right,
and
trying
by
to get some
having,
type of an analysis
you know,
of the health of
data-driven,
your system.
it's because the parts of
it's
solid,
hard
as you
to
take
figure
the
That
egos
has to be
out.
done through software.
It's
so
But
I could be a real
that's
jerk on the
something that,
council
like, first
because
of all,
I
we'll
really
never
want.
ever have on staff all of the
I
expertise and knowledge
really
that
want
we
someone who
have.
just
And so we need to
doesn't
have
pass
the
the
ability to
smell
bring in
test
consultants to bridge those
from what the
gaps.
data
A couple of things that I'm seeing, at least, with this discussion.
The job of defending that to
Needs that
residents
would-
or
that would
communicating that to council or
support
communicating that to
multiple
staff.
departments, right? Like,
infinitely
I look at
easier.
what
It's like,
has happened with the CRA
it wasn't
message on
us,
that, and
you know.
I'm not gonna say.
But
that
I'm this department, I mean, I'm not doing this thing, it's not
did
us.
the best that we can with what we have.
It's been very
But honestly, I
vice
think
versa.
the community
Residents
expects
usually
more,
want to see
and we
this.
can't give any
From
more
what I
until
see,
we
what the data
have
says,
staff who have capacity to give
the
more.
emotions of things.
And,
priorities.
you know, so,
Which is really hard when you've got residents very emotional, calling you and asking and telling you how stupid you are for not listening to them.
absolutely, absolutely. But it's really hard for the council to sit there and make a decision when there's a room full of angry people. But also, there's like 33,000 people here not in the room that aren't angry. But that's, right, like, that's hard to be responsive when you have these. In fact, that's one of the things that's just so hard, right, is that Like when I was in Moab, that community was involved all the time, whether it was this or that. And trust me, that was hard, because sometimes you're like, just don't care. But I'd rather have them care across the board for everything versus just one thing that they're mad about. And my items are always the one thing that people are mad about.
I know, we know. What is it you guys expect?
We can literally like get the data out.
We can present how, but just knowing what you expect.
Which
that has
would be
a house,
handled by
picture of a
the-
house
us to be the better salesman when we hire somebody or do
We can't
something
get to the west side.
employees, and then in the
If we
background,
would-
5 people are going, that's like down
That's
to
what
nothing
you're
I've ever heard of.
It's all of our west
They
pages
just prioritize it, and that's it.
Calm and peace in
Why
terms of
we
our
have to
message.
You guys are gonna, you know how I agree, but that's not what it's about.
No, I know.
And he's gonna have to be the final.
I think that was totally.
I think we have too, but this is how I do it. I have to completely ignore everything for 3 weeks while I work on a Q&A. And then I get my time, and then I'm not meeting meetings that everyone else has.
And it's the fire department, fire officers meeting.
Frankly, I mean,
We may be
Chief
getting a
Erickson, right, like we do a really good job of not failing.
I think we said, we were all on the same.
But that comes at
We may still not agree,
an expense
but when we
too,
left that
right?
room,
Where
we all agreed.
like, I mean, even Ann, it's like, sorry, I ignored this email you sent
It's
me
just
2 weeks
really
ago
hard,
because
business.
I have to tune out and focus on the priority that the council's telling me that Jason's doing.
I do these things, but you still
Some consequences too, like, is this
My neighbor, on the way down there, coming back from 80 miles, the big old traffic lights all the way down.
I need to know is, how do we
A spider?
How much time does everyone still want? Another 2 or 3 minutes?
How do we pay?
Are you guys pretty well good?
I don't know if we're supposed to.
Yeah, you have data. And everyone else. Our community has data as well, so it's just.
All right.
There you go.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
He's a boss.
Honestly, I think.
He and Josh walked into a room.
I think we're going to work with another attorney.
We just ran out of crap.
Nobody made him be the police chief. You signed up. Nobody made him be. There's not always,
Can I call?
it's not always giggles and smiles.
Shake Shack is the Lord's finest burger.
Oh, that's funny. They are good burgers. They're pretty good. Well, you know what? They're kind of, would it be fair to say, Josh, that they're similar to, what are the Freddy's? Have you ever been to Freddy's?
No. Freddy's, like steak burgers.
Kind of that steaky burger. Freddy's steak burgers.
You don't like the new fire?
They're
And
thin,
it's not on the city's
but
distribution to
you
just
can
do
tell
all
it's
that.
different than like a hamburger meat.
So it's a little easier to see. Okay, so can we start with yellow group again? Sure. Do you want to be a spokesperson?
Sure. Okay. SB3, work sessions. We like this. Collaboration, this communication. We would suggest that we have a meeting like this as a work session, perhaps once a month or every other month or once a quarter, whatever, we decide is appropriate. But this is good because then it's not departments having individual conversations. It's group conversations and the information is shared and it's great. I just think the collaboration is really helpful. And we all do, not just me. Okay, be willing to make the decisions when we have the data. And that's the other thing, as a council, we need to be able to make decisions. Regardless of who's in the room. We just need to be able to make decisions. And then come to the council with priorities and options. Yes, we're asking staff to come to the council with your priorities and options, which you usually do give us, but just be more maybe specific about, okay, this is really what we have to have. Because we don't know your jobs, we don't know what you're doing behind the desk, we have an idea, but we really don't know. So you tell us, like Mike said, tell us what you need and just be really firm with it. Because I think there's enough confidence and trust, not just me, all of us, amongst us that we know you're not just making up stuff, you're not just trying to fluff up your department, we understand that. And so just tell us this is what we have to have, and that will be Jason. I'm sure that will prioritize and give us that information, so. And communication, we've been talking a lot. The communication is great. It's what our community also wants from us. And if we have the communication and it's very clear and our focus is clear and our strategy is clear, then we can be able to guide and lead and make decisions. Right?
Thank you. Green? You want to take a turn?
So we kind of felt similar along the lines of what Mayor Tran was kind of saying there, but we talked a lot about just having a plan, prioritizing as a city staff and working out what are our highest priorities. Staffing was kind of the example we went to, where every department's coming to council with their own priorities and their own needs, but we're not coming to them after having met as a collective whole, as all the departments, and which department do we feel has the higher priorities and needs and greatest needs to be able to focus maybe our efforts on, and then to have it planned out for several years in advance, and then just a better flow of information from the staff to council, just like Mayor Tran was saying. So just be a little bit more informative.
Thanks, Brian. Folks,
Oh, John.
Oh,
We won't take you seriously unless you swear.
no, everything's getting picked up apparently, Anne Marie says, which is a bad thing. We were talking. No. We've been talking about Nate the whole time. Don't listen to it, Nate. Don't listen. Okay, so our big thing is, an overarching theme of this is get the data out. As far as information goes, a lot of the times we have facts and analysis, but that information doesn't make it to the community. And so they come, when the decisions are being made, they come and say, you never showed us why this needs to be. And so this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about being better with getting just information out to the community. And one of the ideas I had was to make it very simple, not send a bunch of things, but just send a flyer that's just one thing. If it's about, for example, the response times for fire on the west side, we have just a flyer that's just very basic that says, here are the times. And I feel like if that flyer goes out and it's informative and it catches people's eyes, then there's going to be people on the west side clamoring to get a west side fire station. And so then when we vote on having to do a fire station or increase taxes if we have to, it's not, it's a supportive act. So the facts are important as far as that goes. What did that first one say?
What can our infrastructure handle?
What can our infrastructure handle? So this is a big thing, like even though the facts may say, like Josh brought up a good point, like even though the facts of or what's being presented from an analysis standpoint is that we need more housing, we need to look at also what our infrastructure can handle. So we're not just gonna base everything off of one set of people's facts and analysis, we're gonna have our own facts and analysis for our own community, which sort of ties into, what does that middle one say? Damn, I need Perry's glasses. What?
What's Fireside calls? You talked about.
Oh, okay, what is the?
Helps create consistency.
Helps create consistency, yeah. And so that's the big thing with as far as consistency in our community, is if we have facts to support what we do, as far as what did you say, Josh, rules and restrictions, then when it helps support when we don't do something somewhere that we didn't do it somewhere else. So keeping some consistency on what we're gonna do. And I wrote this at the bottom, I just would love to not have to pay for more studies. It'd be nice, I don't know how we can get facts and analysis without studies, but it'd be super cool if we could just make up
We can just make up our own.
our own.
Right.
So don't ask having facts and data. We just
Right.
make up our own facts.
Well, then it's facts and
Well,
data.
99% of all facts are made up anyway.
Price of chocolate.
Studies are so expensive, though. Oh, my gosh.
All right, good feedback. This one has city manager written all over it. So yeah, I hear a lot of that priority. Tell us what you need.
It's a deep thing.
Provided with data that can be, I guess, explained to the public in a way that hopefully makes it just more common sense or easy to understand why. And don't spend any money on studies.
Well, just be nice.
Tell us everything we need to know, but don't spend any money on studies. I hear you. Studies are very expensive.
Just get the guy on the curb's opinion. I think you should.
Okay, great feedback here. Am I hitting that pretty right? I just feel like if we can explain the priorities, tell us what we need to know and why, and facts, narratives.
I'll take that.
Give it. Anything else? I think that was pretty clear.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, let's move on to the last one, and then I think we can all go home. If everyone have enough appetite just for one more? Okay, shift one more time, and we'll do GB3.
Oh, can't they shift the other way?
Pretty straightforward.
Come get a cookie.
I got it. Awesome.
You stop.
No. Should we go the other way?
Somebody would have to grab a request this February, right?
He's nuts.
Hello.
You just keep on coming back to it. That's what you do, right?
Just summarize.
Just summarize. Oh, please tell me she's not cold.
You guys are going to want to specify for the record which thermostat.
You read
Ice cream.
Harry, if you can hear us, let us know.
I thought I called him. Okay, here. It says it's on the line.
You city council. Hey, that was way cheaper than going. I still married him.
It's a no go.
We didn't go to like.
Is this close? This isn't close, so no. Yeah, so they.
Is it recorded or is it minutes?
I would like it, my body complete, and I think this color out.
Okay, everyone take, this one should be super fast. What does GP3 look like? Enrich our city center and downtown. What does that look like in terms of a goal or an action initiative?
Okay,
This is hopefully this is pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna say 3 minutes. And then we'll already do this and then be out of here in the next 20 minutes, hopefully.
Okay, GP3.
It's very triggering.
What is the downtown?
Enrich our city center and
It
downtown.
looks like hanging flower beds.
I think
It's very specific.
Hanging flower
the
beds.
first thing that comes to mind
No, I think we should do beds. We should have
Oh,
whole
beds,
flowers.
we should have.
a meeting that the mayor had.
By the way, this was already so specific to start with. That I don't care if people want to give more specific ideas. If that's helpful.
I think that when the mayor first started, like, state outreach for some of the properties.
I would think so. I would say
One of the things I was struggling with was like
chalk festival.
I mean, to me,
reconciling
somebody
what it is now
making a
with
bold
like,
decision.
I don't know.
a lot of
I'd say it's not.
Tear down the library.
I like where you're going. But if we're going to keep it, then let's keep it and let's do something.
Yes.
Let's quit sitting on it.
Yes. Yes.
If we're going to tear it down, let's tear it down. If we're going to keep it,
Okay.
let's keep it.
My
Quit.
best
It
service
sat for
Streetside Cafe.
Fix the
almost 9 years
Okay,
ago.
what did we decide?
Well, what does that even mean?
But the mayor was like, yeah.
We could do as creative as we want to be. I think,
No, we don't want to.
I think
2025.
That
Okay.
Well, I think the
businesses
city
that might not
has-
otherwise come
No,
here
we don't.
the city can't control a lot of stuff
Community
that private
center.
development does, but the city can control properties that we have. So if we expect businesses across the street to
Bulldozer.
invest,
making it a place where people want to come,
the city
whether
needs
that's
to
with your
invest.
business
Yeah.
or
Okay.
a place where you want to come
So
I want to honestly,
Lighting, I think,
that's my,
I think you probably need to have
Hanging flowers.
landscaping, and then for a while, you probably need to have
yeah, I meant those cute little plants,
series
you
of
know, that are
events
overflowing like a station park.
for like the first,
No, I'm in a
I don't know, 5 years that really emphasize on pushing people down. So if you're gonna do something to change it up, you need to like plan.
And I'm not proposing
things
that.
around it, block parties, different things to get people to come down. And
But I don't disagree with having some sort of a
City center area, beautification, we decide to do with that light.
yep,
So-
and parties,
well, some parts a little bit more
activities.
You have like a stick with a hose. You cannot
Yeah, people won't change their, just because you built something, someone
people
upgrading the band.
won't
get a
start
lot
out
of
there
bang
unless
out of
they've
the buck by
like
not
been there and
beautifying and making public
Bountiful
access.
did something really cool. They put in
Right now,
Little things like
their
that.
downtown, put in
Get a sense of
it's an ice ribbon, and then in the summer it's just
now I'm not
cement or
necessarily
whatever.
saying the city
But like,
should
unless you've been there, like you went to Summerfest, you saw the ice ribbon, you saw the opening, you saw the gazebo, and then the next time you think about like, oh, we're gonna have a little
encourage you to do.
together, let's just go to
In return, we're willing to help advertise for your business. We're willing to make a partner.
that ice ribbon.
To bring more community, better partners with your businesses without actually giving them a lot of money. Because we just tore a house down over here on Main
You're
Street.
seeing 600
Tear
great
buildings
ways
down,
to
or have some sort of plan in the back of your head that you want to do something.
The mortuary to
And I think it starts. It would be
how do we get them across to how do we
but
irrigate
maybe we should, for a little bit of
that side
time, not so much money, if we knew what was coming, to meet with them, talk to them, say,
some
hey,
type
what
of
can they
like
do for you?
it is funny you were talking about the traffic management slowing down how many
they've taken out sections of their sidewalks and put in cobblestone type rock work, and they've done things that have made it look a lot more inviting and not the same thing. So you're going down their corridor, it doesn't feel like you're just seeing the same thing over and over. It's like there's a variety of accented changes as you go through there. There's also different styles of rock beds and different things like that. It makes it that's a really good point. It is pretty cool.
What can the city do for you to help your existing business?
Yeah, they've done a really good, it made it.
I know.
When we went to Vernal last time, to your point, we went to dinner. My wife just said, just walk down the road and just
That's my opinion. I think
because it was so light,
maybe there's
and not enough people on the like not
it had that
maybe
which is not
but for
it's not
lived here forever, but
you would like come out of the restaurant and say,
I'm looking at up here, come on, let's go walk. They don't take
Building
it either.
authority.
Well, if we just reprioritize it,
and turn it into
scratch their backs.
I just think like,
Let put a sidewalk sign
Again,
out.
that has to do with activities like you have.
Yeah, you're not hurting anything by doing that. No, instead he gets, because you know you don't get a sign.
I realize the only idea from those guys though,
That could be things we can do at no
have
cost.
So I have a neighbor,
landing pad out there and some benches and some things like that. Like I
but he
think you
wanted
could have
you
even
could argue baseball, but he
maybe
wanted the
figure
city
out a way to have like
size
a spot for a little band or
fixing that,
something players.
why should I?
Anything that's
Any private citizen that's too big or
I know, we gotta
they
just-
didn't want to favor Davis.
You're right, you're totally
To me,
right.
I'm just
Tearing it down,
like,
what's the option? Let's tear it down. Let's make something. But
against the
look like the city's got pride in this city.
Well, and to your, like you said, I mean, you drive into some cities and you know you're in their city. Like, this is our city, and it's very different from not being within their city boundaries. And you can see it, it's visual.
We know where Kaysville is, on and off ramps are just weed lots.
What happened to City of Distinction? Did Hyatt change that? He changed it at hometown. I'm gonna call him and say, what the heck? City of Distinction was much cooler. They are awful. I don't know why they
No, I don't think he spoke out. He just talked to me afterwards. I was like, I don't know about, like, you know. It's like, he was worried about.
We want to be the city of
He was worried
something.
about taking pieces.
I mean, it's great to be a hometown.
So, in front of my
But hometown does get really like. I know. Lesbian. I like to right.
And he goes, now everybody's
It's only $200,000 to right now.
Get a lot of stuff. Or even evaluating like this is how we've been doing it for a long time.
that's
cheap stuff. Is it worth?
All right, we need spokespeople.
And letterhead, we can change that.
Who wants to be spokesperson?
I would love to do that, but
All right,
that's.
last one.
You might have been doing it wrong for 30 years.
Okay.
It's priorities.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't be going to the more.
Oh, it's not
Oh,
even
sorry.
John.
Let's move to the center.
Okay, sorry. So
Things in Aspen, how's the city treating?
we kind of talked about, well, what does that?
Everybody listen!
Stop talking.
I was talking
That's
about
cheap, you can't
Councilmember
stop.
Black.
Yeah, that's cheap.
I'm listening to the recording.
He said if I don't listen.
So our first question was, what does that mean to enrich our city center and downtown? And so that could mean landscaping and aesthetics, lighting. We talked about design guidelines. A lot of times people talk about architectural guidelines, and we may want to do those too. But design guidelines are kind of talking about like how do you program a space, and then and what I mean by that is you want to have a space that's inviting to people. That's not architectural. A lot of times that is just how you design your site. What activities and programs do we want to see down here? I mean, you don't, if you're going to enrich it, obviously all those things are important, but we want people to use it and come and be here. And so that will come through activities and programming. And then just another plug, right? But like going back to that original question of what does that even mean? I think in the next year we'll understand much better from the community and the business owners what that means. And my guess is that all of those items will end up being addressed in the plan in some manner.
Awesome. Mayor, do you want to take this one?
I would just love to hear Cole talk about the library building and how we should set the standard.
Hanging plants.
We're turning it down.
Okay.
No.
Cole!
I'm just kidding. No, we talk about like the enrichment, GP3, enrichment of our city center downtown. What can the city do? If we expect our businesses to want to invest in their businesses, the city needs to be investing in the facilities that we have. And the example we have is the library that's been sitting decaying for the last 9 years. So if we want to enrich what can we do? And those are the things that we talked about. Is like these are the things the city can do. Let's fix our own facilities. If we want neighbors across the street to upgrade their facilities, well, the city should be the one taking the lead, upgrading and fixing our facilities, beautifying our entries into the city, making Kaysville. The comment that was made is when you go into like Vernal, you know you're in Vernal because they have their feel. What is the feel when you come into Kaysville? It's grassy weeds on and off ramps. But what do we want that? So beautifying, upgrading. One simple thing like is our messaging throughout the city, the banners we have on the main street and 200 North light poles. Upgrading those things to make our messaging that you're in Kaysville. And then I think that tied into some with just making our appearance from a more visual standpoint. The mayor's offered to water hanging baskets all up and down 200 North and Main Street.
By myself.
By herself.
By a watering
And we don't buy
ladder.
her step ladder. So.
Go gadget artist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, step ladder. No, bring that up.
So, but our main talking point was like just, what can we do? City center is take care of our own facility that we have.
Excellent. And last spokesperson.
Yeah, we talked about having that long-term vision and that plan and actually executing it. So what do you want from downtown? And then we feel that we need to be better partners with our downtown businesses that we currently have. How can we make them better at little or no cost to us, but make them better? Mike brought up We got a new business going in just across from the PD, just to the north. How can we talk to them and say, hey, can you put this maybe facade up and make it look like this, and maybe we'll advertise for you, or whatever that looks like. And then our communication, as we basically said all evening, it is pretty poor, and we can do a lot better job, for sure.
Nice.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
This has been fantastic. There's some different ideas that came out of this one that I wasn't expecting. I thought everyone would say library, but well, small area plan makes sense. There's so many more of these principles we could get into tonight, and I feel like I think the mayor said it. Having these meetings on a more regular basis would be great. I think maybe we look at doing a quarterly type meeting, maybe before a council meeting. I don't know. I'll put out some surveys to see what people prefer. If you prefer, hey, maybe we meet, for an hour before council meeting once every quarter and just talk about stuff like this. Or maybe it's you pick a Friday morning once every few months or so.
Jason, maybe you can do a study on that. We'll give that, John.
We're going to commission.
I already did
to do it.
Just pay me to do it.
That's a great idea. That's what we got out of this today. More studies.
Let's do a study.
Okay, so next steps here. I'm gonna look this over. We're gonna talk about this in the department head meeting and try to come up with some more specific, goals and circle back to the council. I think another one of these meetings might be great, and maybe we can get into even more. If there are things, I'm sure there are things on here that we didn't even touch on that are important to a lot of people. So. By all means, I'm not telling council this is your only chance to give input. If you have other ideas here that you didn't get a chance to bring up tonight, let me know. And maybe we have to have another one of these meetings, down the road. But I think the key is just ongoing communication is really valuable. So we'll try to do that. We're going to get into budget workshops here really soon, starting on February 14th. So it's going to be a lot going on. I don't know when we'll get back to having another one of these kind of high-level discussions. It might not be until we get pretty well through budget, since that's going to dominate a lot of this. But I think that's also going to segue into what we've been talking about. So, any final comments before we end tonight? Thoughts, questions?
I think since budget is probably the number one, I feel like budget is my number one priority. But with me, budget is always, I don't know where all the money comes from. I don't know how we pay for it. I think it's really important, and I think what I'm asking as a council member is, and I will hit on it again and again, is you as a staff prioritize. Prioritize what your needs are. And then when you come to us with these priorities, tell us what the costs are. How are we going to pay for it? Because I feel like we get in some of these workshops and we get in these things and we talking budgets, but it's never, we need to do a tax increase. Well, a tax increase meaning what? A tax increase meaning 1%, 5%, 10%? Are we looking at some of the other programs? I think priorities and how we sustain those priorities. And as we go into that, I think it's really important that we get a consensus from staff, and that means you're going to be the leader, telling us you're the city manager. But the consensus, the priorities, how are we going to achieve that? That's really what I want to see. And I think that's kind of, I'll let my other council members talk. I don't know what, but I think that's an important thing. I think that's what we're trying to say is communication. Come to us with answers, not with questions.
Mike, I think you might, I'm not speaking for any other department heads, but I think we've kicked down the can down the road the past few years, and your priorities are going to be ugly. That's what I think. I think there's going to be a lot.
And what I'm saying is, I think they're going to be ugly, but you as staff got to tell us what those highest priorities are.
Okay.
Okay. That's excellent feedback. I think we are already with you on that, frankly. A lot of this feedback came, I think, from the last set of budget workshops we did last year. Kind of the bottom line up front type stuff, and give us what the needs are, and you're going to see more of that this year than you saw last year for sure.
I mean, it's so much easier for me to take a beating if I can say, I'm taking this beating because I had 100 and some full-time employees who are led by 5 or 6 specific ones and who are led by the city manager. They have come to me with this priority and said, this is why you're taking the beating, is because we have gone so long without. This is what we need to sustain those things that you require out of us to keep the city sustainable and keep our services where they're at. And so that's why we're doing a tax increase, or that's why we're increasing your water or your power rates, is because because as a collective, full-time experts, they said this is what we have to do to sustain this. They've prioritized this, knowing that we can't have it all. You just can't have it all. There has to be a cutoff. And, you know, I mean, a percentage is, right now you say we're like 15th or 14th out of the 16 entities in taxes, okay? I don't want to be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but I'm okay with 7 or 8. I don't, because that means you're keeping an average, sustainable, comparable to your other people in your community, in your area. I'll take a beating for that if you prioritize it and you know there's a ceiling there. Not everybody gets everything they want. But that's what I'm looking for, hopefully, in a good, cohesive budget season.
I agree. Yeah.
Perfect. And I actually agree with you, I think, on everything you just said. So, yes, absolutely. You know, the way I see it, frankly, is there's cost. There's either, you know, there's no fluff in the budget, frankly. And we're kind of getting we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks from now. But it comes down to nothing changes. You know, what do you want to cut, or what falls off the truck, as Chief often says. You know, and certainly we can say, okay, here's our priorities, and we will have priorities of here's kind of rank order of what we need. Here's what we're recommending strongly for this year. Here's what it's going to cost. But also, if we don't do this, then what happens? And that's where we get into, well, here's the risks. Here's what doesn't happen. Here's where we dig ourselves into a hole. So I think it's, if I'm hearing you right, give us a narrative of what and why.
Right. And it's easy for me to take that beating saying there are 16 entities in Davis County. We are right around 7 or 8. That means we are maintaining a good average with everybody else. We're not the top 4. So we're living within our means. When we're down to 15 or 16, we're living below our means. We shouldn't be there. We should be up in the 7 and 8 area. And that's what I want to be able to tell people that. I want to say,
That's easy. We'll just raise the property taxes to, I'm kidding.
well,
Jason.
it goes to priorities.
Yeah, to that point as well, the last time we did a very small tax increase, to me, I was new on council, I didn't really know, but it was frustrating to me because we just raised it just to cover necessities for that year. Then the next year, we were just way behind again. And so I think it's a 2-part process of figuring out what our needs are, but looking long-term, because I don't want to see the city raise taxes every year, but we need to raise taxes enough for the foreseeable future. But then also we need to be very mindful of our residents. We can't catch up with the artificially low tax rates that the city has kept for 20 years previously. So we need to be very mindful of that. But, so it's kind of a 2-part process here. Our job, first and foremost, is to explain to the public why, and to be mindful of what this does to the public. And so any information that we get, just keeping that on the forefront. How do we tell this to the public? Everything you give us, how do you tell it to the public? And kind of come with that mindset, it allows us to kind of do that final lifting.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
I thought this was great. Thanks for participating, everyone. It feels like this was very collaborative and great.
Yes, thank you. Everyone's time has been super valuable and comments have been really helpful. Looking forward to the budget process. I think it's going to be, we're much better prepared than this year knowing what the wants are, what the expectations are. So thank you.
Thanks, Perry. On the phone. Goodbye.
I'd like to have this recorded.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's not there. But like someone said to me, oh, Lynn's truck can fix the cost of groceries and everything. I'm like,
He's not.
he can't fix it. You gotta stop.
Thanks, Jason. That was really helpful.
Once that
really,
stuff gets
really
on the
good.
shelf, then they'll bring it down. But this is for sure the Dean way, though. You do that for sure. Come on. Dean always comes in and like, oh, we're $2 million. And then the next time it's like, oh, we did some.
It's not true.
I read you. It's a perfect car sales. We can slash this. We can slash this down right now. We're all like, what is that? So good.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.